back to the SMITE World Championship. It's me, F-Todd, and it's you guys. How y'all doing? That was pretty weak, but I told you earlier I hate it when hosts do the cringe, like, let's do it again, so we're not going to do it again. But I'm hanging out here in the pit, and I've noticed a sign that I have to interact with real quick. Where are you? Oh, shout out to the Totem of Ku. But I'm talking about this guy. I'm talking about this guy. What's good, man? What's your name, bro?
I'm Jared, but I'm also going by Beans Jeans.
Beans Jeans. Yo, I recognize that name, actually. You've been in this fight for a while, huh?
Yeah. I've been playing for, what is it, like 5, 6 seasons?
6 seasons.
So I've been around for a while. It's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun in the game.
That's wild, man. How you enjoying this weekend?
I'm having a lot of fun. This is my second time here at SWC. Last year, I got Barracuda to sign my forehead. This year, I wanted you to sign my forehead. Next year, I'll have someone else sign my forehead.
Well, to follow in the footsteps of Barracuda is a big deal. So I guess I have to now. Hey, yo, my man. Great shit, brother. Let me get a picture with you, cool?
Yo.
Come on now.
Get out there.
Gods and goddesses, it is time for your third quarterfinal of the day. Please make some noise for your team, Hex Mambo. And their opponents, make some noise for Atlantis Leviathans.
Maybe the most chill intro music of all time for Hex Mambo and the Leviathans. Welcome back to the Analyst Desk. My name is Dolson. Mifflin's with me. Who's it? Still inbound? Hazer, you're all the way down there. I don't know if you're getting any closer to me for the rest of this weekend, but I'll remember where you are eventually. Fellas, we're going into our third quarterfinal of the day. It's Hex Mambo, Atlantis Leviathans at this point. Back to another SPL SEC matchup. Leviathans, though, Miff, it's a team with some history of world championships, and they'll pull the favorites card here in this matchup.
I mean, clear favorites as far as I'm concerned. These guys have been really stepping up their game ever since PandaCat joined the squad. What was it that he said? 6 seed, not good enough, and since then just gone straight up?
Yeah,
something
he
like
wants
that.
to win.
Yeah, he wants to win, and that's kind of his MO.
Bobby, what's the win condition of this Atlantis Leviathans team, though? How have they been winning?
He hit it. I mean, it's PandaCat.
Oh, is it just PandaCat?
It's got to be PandaCat. He is the one that
You think I'm
has
not calling that
dictated
out?
this team from that 6 seed spot all the way up to that, second seed. Competing for first seed even at some points. And if he gets something like the Ullr, which we saw banned away from Coast last game, scary thought.
On the flip side, though, Hex Mambo, they bring a very talented roster to the main stage. And we talked as talent before this, some matchups we really wanted to look at and players we wanted to highlight. Dzoni v Adapting, Hazer seems like a pretty good place to start between these two teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's the original EU hyper carry jungler, and the new boy on the block, Dzoni, has kind of been, he's just dominated EU in general over the last 3-4 years. He's been head and shoulders above every other jungler for a long time, and now he's here to test his mettle against what many consider to be the best of all time in the jungle, Adapting.
We'll get a bit more into this matchup in just a moment. Myth says it's PandaCat and that's it. No more analysis to be done by us. Let's hear what some of the actual players have to say about the Leviathans.
With a rough start to the year, the Atlantis Leviathans decided to drop Zapman, a player that years ago they picked up in order to make a Worlds run. Testing the waters without the 3-time, Ronngyu, Sheento, and the rest of the Leviathans hope to use what they have learned to facilitate returning player PandaCat and lift Thor's hammer at the end of the year.
I would say when I first joined the Leviathans, all they really needed was like a voice that'd be like, do this, this, and this, and we'll win. Because they had the mechanical skill, but I would say they didn't have the confidence to believe that if they did this and this and this, they would win. That's all they needed. They needed that kind of direction. So I would say after we won, they understood how to play the game. They got that confidence, and I would say that wasn't as needed in that aspect of the game, right? Maybe they wanted now a player that can win lane better than me or anything like that, just something different. And because we were losing a bunch, I got the short end of the stick, which happens. Like, it can happen to any team. Like, someone just gets the short end of the stick depending on the variables going on the team at that point. So, yeah, I mean, to answer the question, I don't think they needed me anymore.
Especially with Sheento and Ronngyu, like, they were still not new to the league, but they weren't as tenured as the other players. And I think having that voice of Zap on the team really lent itself to them in a good way. But now they've like learned probably so much from playing in the league and potentially just from Zap himself that maybe having a more consistent player, like somebody else you can play through in PandaCat, or just even having like fineokay in the side lanes, they don't need Zap to call. They can do it themselves. They've grown enough, and there's 5 people that I would be confident to like follow on a call on that team. So it really did, I think it was a good choice if they felt like it wasn't working out with Zap.
I thought the Levi's were bad at the start of the year. I did not think they were good. And then something changed, and I don't remember what it was, and they started doing well. I think it was as soon as they picked up PandaCat, they started doing really well. And I don't know why that changed all of their players to start owning, but it did.
When you're Panda and you're coming into a team that didn't perform as well as people might have expected in the first phase, they're looking for someone to kind of give them that like little pep in their step, give them a little bit of energy. And I think Panda has been exactly what I would expect him to be. I don't think he's as dominant of an ADC as you might imagine him being in years past, like seasons 4, 5, and 6. And that's not because he's playing poorly. I just think, competition catches up to you at some point.
He did start owning. PandaCat did start owning out of nowhere. I think he was always good, but I don't know. I need whatever he's taken, because he's been absolutely dominating everyone, besides my dual lane. My dual lane's sick. But everyone else has been getting owned.
Maybe they just needed like a spark somewhere on the map to really get the team going, and I think it's shown this this split that you have PCAT, who's been playing like very well. You have Sheento, who's probably been the best player in the league, like in my opinion anyway. And you have Kenneth, who can adapting. Like he always has the potential to just 1v9. That's the king right there.
They're kind of Warriors light, in my opinion. I think they have the similar playstyle as the Warriors, where they kind of want to bring it to you, outplay you, and things like that. I'm obviously very familiar with their players. Sheento's a good friend of mine, or was a good friend of mine. No, just kidding.
That team for me is kind of like Oni Warriors light, where they do have a chance to just play better than you. I think Sheento especially is kind of him at times, for sure. Like, just a very, very, very good player. But yeah, I think same sort of spot with the Warriors. Like, when you're down 0-1, when your backs are against the wall, like, how do you respond? Who are they leaning to in that moment? I think that's the question mark for me.
They're a bit trigger happy on some plays, like objective pulls. Like even if they're in like an 80% probability win spot, they're like, yeah, we'll just rip an FG in front of 5 people, and if we get it, we get it. If we don't, GG. And it's like, I think maybe they take too many risks, but I think at a tournament, being a team that's willing to take risks is like a good trait to have, because, you know, if you're the team forcing the other team into decisions, then you're just opening yourself up to, you know, to get into a winning spot.
This new look Leviathans have looked hot during the regular season, but will they fall into their old ways with the weight of the world stage hanging overhead?
He is right about many things in this life, and his read on the Leviathans is certainly no different. They started the year, the Leviathans did. Any guesses? 5-5, above or below the start of the year for the Leviathans?
Below.
Below.
Below. You're all right. I don't
It's
know.
not a guess.
That's
We were there.
Yeah, you were there. I was there too. 3-7 to start the year for the Leviathans in Phase 1. Phase 2, Leviathans go 8-2. Talk about flipping a switch for the Leviathans, and I guess that video gives Miff some credit. A lot of PandaCat making a difference. If you're a coach, though, Hazer, you're looking at all the talent that's on the Leviathans side of the stage. How are you adapting to I'm not doing it again. How are you preparing a pick ban strategy against a studded team like the Leviathans?
I think the thing I would worry about as a coach, and maybe don't take my word for this because I never won Worlds, but I would worry about Sheento. I think he's the one I would look towards. I think he is, I mean, it's a team full of stars. I mean, it's crazy to say,
Hard
like,
to say.
adapting, fineokay, PandaCat, and the one I'm talking about as a star is Sheento, but I think it is. I think Sheento is the star. I think he is the one to shut down if you're going to shut someone down. I think he's the one with the more explosive picks that you want to take away from him.
We don't have to take Hazer's word for it. Kelly's standing by on the main stage with the head coaches.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dolson. Joining me here, the two coaches of our respective teams, Slaney and Davey. Slaney, you guys, being one of the teams that have qualified straight to the Global Championships, had the opportunity to pick the 4 remaining teams that you'd be going up against. What was it about Hex Mambo that lured your decision towards them?
I mean, realistically, they're an FCC team. They're full of really good players, but they haven't scrimmed us, they haven't played us. It's hard for them to prep. We were scrimming the other SPL teams, so they're going to have ideas of what we do. I think it's easier for us to go into a set with them not really knowing what we do. So that was probably the main driving force.
And speaking of you guys being an SCC team, you are easily the greenest team here. 3 out of your players have never even been to a Worlds before. What have you been doing and the rest of the team been doing to prepare them for this moment?
On the drinks, really. Just, you know, it's only Kenneth. Kenneth's just Johnny's little... Kenneth went back to SPL to get away from Johnny, you know? Like, Johnny's just that good. He's that guy. So Kenneth's not ready. Kenneth's not ready for him, you know?
I mean, what do you feel about everyone saying that Johnny is the new adapting? Do you agree with that?
Johnny isn't no new adapting. Johnny is better than adapting ever was, ever will be. Let's be real.
Slaney, do you have a response to that?
I mean, only one of them is a 2-time.
All right, I can already feel the fire going on right now, so I'm just gonna ask you guys one more question before we get into the quarterfinal. Is there anything that you would like to say to the coach and to the players of your opponents?
I love Slaney, but unfortunately, it's got to be the way it's got to be, you know? 1 week on the coach job, it's too easy. It's too easy being a...
Slaney?
Good luck, have fun.
All right, guys, let's get into game number 1. Let's head back to the desk.
Thank you. Smart man, Slaney, letting the gameplay talk for him. Davey says the strategy is those little golden honey bears I keep seeing people walk around the venue with. Apparently that's... Go ahead.
No, I was crying, and I don't want my makeup to run.
Remember the last time you cried, Miff?
Stop.
Do you remember when it was?
I watched Pitch Perfect recently.
All right, it was pitch perfect.
Fellas, Anna Kendrick.
Let's sink our teeth into this matchup a little bit more. A lot of focus in the pregame talk about PandaCat versus Spudio, but then in the interview, a lot of focus on Johnny versus adapting. Inbound, what's your read on the Johnny versus adapting jungle matchup?
I mean, I don't think Davey's particularly wrong in terms their picks this year have been a little bit different. Is Johnny better than adapting? That's yet to be seen. He's not proved it, but this is a good time to prove it. This is the game that you want to be able to go in. And if you do dominate, if you do perform in a game like this, that does set the tone for the rest of it. And I think Mambo don't have a ton to lose in a game like this because they're the underdogs.
But are you telling me if Johnny wins this set, you're willing to all in on him having a better legacy, or what's going on there?
If Johnny wins this, Johnny and Mambo win this, I will say right now that Johnny is a better jungler than Adapting is right now.
What about ever? Like, as far as dominance
I don't know if
concerned?
anyone can ever say that.
Can't. He's the GOAT.
Luckily for Mage solos are cringe fans out there, we haven't been seeing much of that today. We'll get into picks and pans for game 1 between Hex Mambo and the... Don't make fun of me, Myth. I'm a little rusty. We're getting back into it. It's all good. Hazer, what are some expectations here in the first 6? More run-of-the-mill? Are you pick banning a priority player on either team?
Well, looking back at Hex Mambo's picks over the last tournament, they had a lot of variety across their picks. The places where you look where they played the most, I think they played Sobek 5 times. Cozyx and EU SCC players in general seem to be really liking that, and it is banned away. Look, they've been looking at the stats too. Leviathan's clearly done their prep, and the other one, I guess, is Spudio has played a load of Hachiman as of late. Not so lucky on that one. Daji goes instead, but yeah, Hachiman is the other one I'm looking at.
Seen plenty of Sobek today. Not anymore, though. Banned out by the Leviathans. Athena, Aphrodite, so back-to-back support bans for Hex Mambo. Surprise inbound.
Not really. I think the supports have shown that there's like 2 top tiers with a couple in the next category. I like those bans. Something that's sticking out to me so far is this Osiris. And before I can even get my point in, Osiris is gone. But that's the god that stuck out to me as this god is getting first pick. Everybody wants to play him.
Seems like if it's not Osiris, we've seen the Bologna in response to it, or the Sun Wukong on the other side. We know the Osiris-Sun Wukong matchup clearly favors the Osiris. A little bit more nuance when Bologna and Sun Wukong line up against each other, I think. Totems go a little bit more evenly, but it comes down to the dive. On the other hand, though, why worry about soul laners when you can get premier mages on the table? Thoth in the first slot, long-range artillery damage, and one of the favorites of the Leviathans.
Yeah, this pick has been so powerful in the recent past. We've seen this god since the Book of Thoth build came into the meta. He can one-shot again. I can't believe it. I'm seeing Thoth ulting for 1,600, 1,700.
Whoa.
But on the other side, we see the Nike and the Hachi, Bobby.
And I love this Nike pick. With the Osiris gone, we saw this a couple times into the Thoth at the qualifiers, and the Thoth could do nothing against the Nike. He doesn't do enough damage to get through her shield. We very rarely see Sunders nowadays. If we do see Sunders, maybe it's a different story, but until we see that, Nike dominates Thoth in this matchup.
But a smart answer to the Nike, if you're going to initiate every fight with that leap, Awilix there to keep things rolling. And it also denies the Awilix pick if it is going to be an Odin lock-in for the Atlantis Leviathans, another standard answer to that Odin. I like how this one looks. It's one of the Leviathans' bread and butter as of recent. Adapting was the one to bring Awilix back into the meta. High early game potential, almost acting as a bridge pick. Looks to me to be a very strong late game composition starting to come together here for the Levi's. Odin gonna initiate your fights, and Thoth gonna finish them.
And to double down on your Odin point, it's a phenomenal pick into Hachiman too. Not able to actually escape that ring. Awilix can then engage, and Hachiman cannot run away from that engage. So Odin, not something that we've really seen, but I like it in a comp like this.
Remember, a lot of the mystery of the unknown, as Slaney has mentioned, teams don't really scrim one another, and that's that X factor that the SEC teams have brought to the main stage in the past. Though the picks and bans seem to be moving smoothly for both of these teams. Ullr in our previous set have been getting banned out in the first wave of bans, but Hazer, the Ullr falls to the second wave here, and the Leviathans and PandaCat are not going to get the chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, if you're thinking about one Ullr player, it's going to be Coast. But after that, you're probably thinking about PandaCat. He's been really strong on this pick. He has liked pressure hunters as well. Even going back to the Mage ADC meta, he was playing Sol a lot, one of the best players on that, and really wanting to run it down, get those bastions early, you know, push people under the tower and dominate. Thor taken away as well, another jungler that can get out of the cage. I wonder if there's going to be another target ban towards Johnny, taking something away that will allow him to play against this Awilix and this Odin.
I'm surprised to see that Chernobog ban. We've seen a lot of ROM priority, especially in the most recent events. Feels like that Salty within PandaCat's God pool would play pretty well into the Raijin. Anytime there's a standard squishy mage on the other side, you just want to start the fight with the ultimate, remove 60% of their HP and say, well, if they step up any further, they just lose their life. But Hazer, you were telling me, not a massive fan of the Chernobog.
No, I think that the god has fallen off pretty hard in ADC. I do like it in mid, and I thought Sheento might go towards it. Probably not with a Thoth on the table.
Fair.
But yeah, I think the god's pressure is so low. Obviously, Cyclone Spin made it work, but I think the god has fallen off pretty hard, and we shouldn't be seeing it prioed so high. I think Bomb 2 ban, though, just about where it belongs.
And with all these Guardians kind of gone to the wayside, we have to go to like that next tier of supports. And I was interested to see what Cozyx was going to go for. We saw it at qualifiers that he likes this Terra, but he kind of defaulted to it in that Sobek matchup. But it seems that he still just likes the Terra outright. Does not really matter what the Levi's are looking to play. He'll just play that Terra.
What do you think of it in this matchup, though? You've got a lot of support experience, and Terra was one of your go-tos. Is this a position you could see yourself going towards it on?
With the opportunity to just play something like Nox into Terra, that is one of the most miserable matchups, because if you ever put your 3 down, there is nothing you're going to be able to do. You're not going to be able to dash away. You're not going to be able to engage. And the disengage potential from this Levi's comp is through the roof.
This is a PandaCat pick. Ullr, one of his more storied gods. We're going to get to see it on the main stage in game 1 of our quarterfinal. Haven't seen it yet this weekend. Miff, what's the heat check on the Ullr here for PandaCat?
I'm not a massive Ullr fan, being completely honest, but when Ullr is 6-slotted and he's gone the Bluestone build and he's got the Brooch, the damage output is pretty ridiculous. Just Hail of Arrows feels like it does like 40%. But the difference is, I come from an era where Ull is the de facto lane bully. And that's not exactly the case anymore. He's more so a late game scaler.
Sorry, I had to get one in really quick there. Hit me inbound.
And when it comes to this late game that you're talking about with Ullr, not really laning phase, he is one of the few hunters that can actually stop Nikes too and actually get some damage onto this solo laner. So I actually like it in a matchup like this. I'm not a huge fan of Ullr in most games, but to damage the Nike, very few gods are going to be able to do it from that hunter role, unlike Ullr.
Yeah, the one problem I have with this Ullr, though, is look at what it's paired with. Where is the objective damage coming out from this Leviathan's comp? Thoth, great secure, but DPS on the objective, not especially good. Awilix typically not doing all that much damage with those abilities, going towards more of a hi-rez power-focused build. So I'm not sure if Fire Giants are going to be plain sailing for the Atlantis Leviathans with this comp. Ullr not going to be able to shred through that Fire Giant like other hunters would.
But it is worth noting that since we'd last seen Ullr played, he has had some buffs, like having the ability to have access to both of his passes regardless of stance, so maybe some potential to play around a slightly different bit of itemization. When we talk about Ull, traditionally it's always all ability damage, Transcendence, Bluestone, Jotuns, Hydras, things like that.
Yep.
Maybe with some of those changes and Levi's bringing out something funky, could be an auto attack Ull, help out with that DPS. Not something I'd call for, but could be.
So we're potentially worried about the burn of the Leviathans. Inbound, in your mind, is that something, though, the Hex Mambo on the other side excel at, or is it a bit of an even game in that regard?
I mean, Raijin's not really adding too much objective damage. A lot of it comes down to, is he going to build crit on this Hachiman? We've seen a couple builds now come through. Crit, Deathbringer, all that good stuff, really good for objectives. On the opposite side, when you go that Titan's Bane, that kin size build, not really as good. So it really depends on what type of build he opts for. I hope for the crit build. I think the crit build is much better in this current meta, but you never really know until you get into that game and you decide, do I want to kill frontline or do I want to play for those objectives?
Yeah, hard agree on that. I really like the crit build into dive assassins like Awilix as well. She can get in there, she can explode you real quick with that feather step. But if you Aegis that out and get a couple autos on her with crit, she can die immediately on that dive. So I'd like to see the crit build out of Spudio here.
And I'm glad you bring up the Awilix because there is interesting interaction in the jungle 1v1. I know I always go back towards it, but it feels like so important in a matchup like this. Awilix, generally one of the better 1v1 gods, but Camazotz the best. There's full stop. It feels like there's not really going to be a point in this game where Awilix is confident in her ability to just deal with this Camazotz. And even in these small jungle skirmishes, only one of the two has sustained hard baked into the kit.
Inbound, you're not going to get to say anything because the casters are ready to take us into quarterfinal number 3.
Game number 1 here around the corner. Atlantis Leviathans, Hex Mambo, a big one coming at you. You've got Frog, you've got Trelly to bring you the action. And Trelly, I'm really excited for this one. I think we've gotten a treat already with some of these picks and bans coming through as well. The Nox, not one I was expecting, a fun duo lane for the Leviathans. And then on the other side, I mean, they talked about the objective shred coming through. What's your take on these comps?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, this is the PandaCat I've been looking for, right? The aggressive, the 1v1er, the one who wants to sit on your tower line and taunt, take those fights. Ullr is exactly the kind of god that can do that, right? But you have to be on point, Frog. Remember, this is the world stage. You lose, your season is done. You lose all your attempt to go for, you can't lift the hammer, you don't get the money, any of that, and you go to Ullr, that shows confidence.
Yeah, and these best of threes, it shows even more confidence to be doing it in a matchup like this, so volatile, to be able to be knocked off the world stage in just 2 games. You have to win 2 here to get to those best of 5s, maybe a little bit more time to play, time to adapt in those semifinals. Before we even get there, though, it's Hex Mambo, it's Leviathans, and you saw that poll. That's a 25-75 split. The crowd pretty heavily favoring the Leviathans, and for good reason. I mean, there are 2 seed coming into this.
Of course, but you got to remember what happened last year, Frog. The Leviathans had choice. They picked the team that looked easy, looked like they could just walk right over them, and they ended up picking their demise. They got out in the quarterfinals because of that selection. Of course, that team ended up making a fantastic Worlds run, but hey, Hex Mambo has that skill set. Hex Mambo can bring that level of aggression towards you, but I don't think the Leviathans are going to make the same mistake 2 years in a row. I don't think they're going to go into this game lackadaisical. They're going to come in, like I said, these gods, the selections the Leviathans have went to, scream confidence to me.
Yeah, a little bit different in terms of the players, and I mean, I think you're right to look at PandaCat. I want to go over towards the mid matchup, perhaps, to start things off, though. This mid 2v2 has me interested in terms of the gods on both sides, really, right? The Leviathans, they've taken the Awilix away from Dzoni, a signature pick for him throughout the entirety of the season. On the other side, a little bit surprised at this Raijin coming out from Rapio. Not the best win rate on this pick coming through from group stages. Certainly waiting, no time to get the pressure started, though. A lot of damage onto Sheento as Dzoni shows the pressure, and now it's Rapio under pressure. One more auto will do it, and Rapio's running the wrong way. He gets over the wall. A miraculous escape for the Raijin, but adapting is not done with the chase. He's got Blink, he's got the damage, he's looking for it. First blood for Leviathan.
And adapting wants to get out of here. Sheento, he's got the peel for him, a little bit of damage coming in. Dzoni cannot go in just yet. He still wants to find the engagement, but the Vampire Bats will not cut it. That's going to be an easy first blood and a disengage. And let's dial it back. I mean, that starts off with aggression towards Sheento, right? The beads, the Aegis gets pulled. That is relics coming through. You have to watch out because of that damage. We were talking about Raijin. Sure, great pressure early. You have some damage, but if you Thunder Crash in, if you dash aggressively, you can get punished for it, and that's exactly what happens.
He's forced to dash over the wall, and using that aggression, using that blink perfectly, is adapting to get that first blood on the board. And you have to imagine, we are expecting to see a little bit more pressure from this adapting pick, from this Awilix, known to be a little bit of an early game pick and into, I mean, I'm looking at the enemy composition. Not only do you have some jumps in the form of Nike on that side, some knockups in your own team, but that jungle 1v1 is so critical, Trelly. That Camazotz pick comes in last, and it has a jump in the kit.
It certainly does, but Dzoni's going to be smart about it, right? You don't take that 1v1 when the gravity surges up unless you've got bat out of hell. You can go up in the air, you can juke some damage, you can wait out Feather Step. There's some room for outplay. Just depends on when you want to take those 1v1s and adapting. Sure, he might have been coming in for a possible back buff invade, but now he's like, hey, I'm gonna get some damage towards you. Blue buff is what we're after.
Knocked down to half HP. Dzoni, the dive under the tower is good. Vino with the last hit. Now Julio topped in the cage and knocked up. Won't be able to make it out to safety. The dive, just a little bit more damage. Adapting, they won't full on dive Julio. It'll just be a blue invade, but that's now 2 kills onto the Awilix.
And fineokay was clean with it, man. The second that kill goes down, he levels ult and puts Julio in the cage. I thought maybe they had enough damage, but adapting just could not get that Feather Step off. So unfortunately, they're only going to leave with 2. I say unfortunately, but considering the pace of some of these games we've seen today, that's pretty good, right? You're already finding 2 kills, especially one onto adapting. That's going to be a good look. XP, though, Dzoni doesn't mind, right? He level 5 first. That's going to be a bit of a difference maker. Adapting needs to wait a bit before that gravity surge is online. I don't want to see Hex Mambo, you know, lay back on their laurels just because of a rough start. I think that Dzoni still has the ability to get active, still has the ability to go in for a gank. And if fineokay ever jumps on the wave, maybe that opportunity will present itself.
Be careful if you're the Odin here on this right-hand side. Just a little bit of pressure. Dzoni coming around the back, and nobody's here to help out. The knockup's there down to half HP. The damage will not be there. I mean, if you're looking at Dzoni to get active, try and match some of this pressure coming from adapting, where do you think he gets involved inside of the map? Hold that thought. Actually adapting, he's already decided. It's on the left side, and Cozyx gets blown to bits on the left-hand side. Another kill for the Awilix.
And that's the benefit of Suku. Adapting can ride across the opposite side of the map. He can say, wait, Dzoni was over and right. I'm going left. I'm going to make my presence known. Spudio got out of there. He took the mounted archery. He got as far away from that lane as possible. And he knew, hey, I'm sorry, bro. I can't save you. Good luck. You don't have any beads. You're going to get locked down. And that's one of the benefits of this Nox pick. You highlighted it early on, not one we've been seeing recently, but into a matchup like the Terra, you know exactly where she's going to dash. That monolith does not move.
This is dangerous early on from the Leviathans. Couple of the first quarterfinals, rather, we've seen some slower starts, right? And this is not necessarily a slow start. 5 minutes, 3 kills in, a 2,000 gold lead close to amounting here for the Leviathans. If you're Hex Mambo, you already have to be thinking early, how do we stop the bleeding? And if you are the Chaos Squad, how do you try to slow down the Leviathans?
You got to dial it back a little bit, right? Showing up for the shield buffs, walking forward to the cooldown buff, that can all be risky when you don't have eyes on adapting, when you don't have eyes on just about anyone on the side of the Leviathan. So you go for confirmed farm. You know, okay, I'm going to step up towards purple. I'm going to try and pull it back underneath tower. If I can't do that, I'm going to run. It's not the end of the world, Frog. This gold lead is not so massive that I want to see Hex Mambo running, but this is what I'm talking about. You walk up to the blue, you don't jump in, Julio.
Julio jumps into the ultimate, and the lockdown is crazy. He's gone off the map, a killing spree for adapting in a full-blown fight over the blue buff. Rapio, the next to fall. Dzoni under pressure. It's 3 for the Leviathans, and they're looking to make it for Cozyx. Able to get out of there, but a dominant showing at the blue buff.
Well, like I said, Frog, you probably shouldn't be stepping up to the blue buffs. You definitely don't leap in onto an Awilix. You think adapting just because he's on Suku isn't going to be able to pull you off the gravity surge. If you don't bring your beads, Rongngyu's got the lockdown. It was just never a play that was going to net much. 6-0. The Leviathans, they are not pulling any punches. They said, I don't care that you're an SCC squad. We are making it to the semifinals, and we're starting right now.
Yeah, it looks like they have no qualms about starting their Worlds run. They know where they want to be on Sunday. And it all starts right here. They want to continue this aggression. And Charlie, looking at their composition, what is the timing you're looking at for maybe starting to think about some of these objectives? Obviously, Gold Fury been on the map now for 2 minutes, and they talked about the shred on the desk. This Ullr can maybe be a hindrance when it comes to thinking about those objectives, but you gotta start thinking about that as you push this lead.
Most definitely, and that is something to note. This is a composition the Leviathans have drafted that was supposed to just own early game, and that is exactly what they're doing. Later on, they may find some struggles. It's not as if PandaCat is going to delete objectives. It's not as if, you know, fineokay's cage is going to get immense value post 25 minutes into the game. You need to make use out of these early game selections, and 6-0 at 7 minutes, I couldn't ask for more, right? This is about as much action as they could find so far. But Hex Mambo should be telling themselves, if I'm the shot caller for Mambo, I'm saying, guys, listen, they're going to fall off. We need to just, no more picks, no more jumping in, no more overextending for buff fights. Let's just get the safe farm and get out.
And we've seen that from Hex Mambo over the years, from the EU teams, over the years, the ability to take these games late, look towards the siege defenses even, trying to come back at that stage of the game. They certainly would rather slow things down, I think, at this early stage. My eyes go towards the solo matchup, perhaps. There's been a couple of those blue buff invades already. In fact, that's up in just another 60 seconds or so. This one's interesting. The Odin into the Nike. Nike we've seen banned a little bit this weekend. Odin's kind of a pocket pick early in the draft. I mean, once again, they're back for this blue buff, but how do you take advantage of this solo lane matchup?
At this point, well, it looks like we might not have too much opportunity to talk about adapting once the leap. Once Julio jumps out, could find the pole, but if you can't threaten it, actually adapting's on the run here.
Jump in from Julio after the ultimate, Dzoni. On this side of the map as well. Looks like another full-on fight, and it's a blink in from Dzoni as Julio's taking the damage, but adapting one more swoop will do it, and Dzoni there to answer back. First kill there for Hex Mambo, and there might be more if they want to continue the chase. Sheento, it's Cozyx with the ultimate, but it looks like Hex Mambo, this time, they're there to defend the blue buff.
Yeah, I don't hate re-engages at all for Mambo, right? When you understand that someone's overextended, when you understand that adapting can die, that's when you go in. And if you needed a kill, it was on the 3-0 Awilix. And if you needed someone for Mambo to get it on, it was on a Dzoni, right? This Camazotz needed just a little bit of help in the farm game, and now with that extra boost of gold, is going to be able to get a lot more proactive. You asked me where. I don't hate the idea of going towards Panda, but he's been under tower for quite some time. It's got to be fineokay, and it's not easy to kill an Odin, especially starting that breastplate.
The solo lane has been the primary focus all game long so far in this game one. Have to think it's because of the matchup a little bit. You obviously want to make sure this Odin is in a good spot, but I'm looking over at the Hunters, and as much as PandaCat has been playing a little bit behind, Spudio has gotten off to a small lead here, right? That half level up to level 11, a little bit behind in the build, has to make sure that he backs to base there to get that next item. But if you're the Hachiman, you're there to shred the objectives. I think if you're Spudio, you're very pleased with how this lane is going.
Yeah, you know, they touched on it on the desk. Ullr is not the early game lane bully that he once was. Those days are over. He is looking for 1v1s, of course, as I do believe the beads. Yeah, Spudio has lost his beads because of that rotation from Ronngyu. You're not just hitting an axe and getting a kill. You need a little bit of itemization. Looks like the fail nod into a possible hi-rez. Then you're looking for those fights. But that's why Spudio's been owning this lane, because he has sustain, he has ranged poke, he has CC immunity. He is going to win the early game just by nature of his character. Later on, that's when PandaCat's really going to make his money with this pick.
Dzoni and adapting, both here in this left-hand side. Potentially baiting out a fight in this dual lane around the shield camp. There might be some aggression here. It's really been Ronngyu and adapting, though. And no surprise from adapting, perhaps, but I mean, I was questioning how active this Nox was going to be.
Right.
Ronngyu maybe was the one that led the way and forced the supports to rotate out early, not something we've been seeing all season. But he has been there with the silences to lock down the beads burn. And now is here to help on the Gold Fury.
That's free.
And this is free. They caught Hex Mambo sleeping a little bit. Atlantis Leviathans take down the Gold Fury.
Yeah, just a little note, if you want to know when an objective's being committed to, if you see adapting pop gravity surge for DPS, yeah, they're not looking to fight. They're looking to grab that and get out, especially when Sheento threatens the final judgment through. That was a, hey, there's no one here. We have vision. Let's get this objective and retreat. Easy as they come. The Leviathans are pushing their lead exactly how they know how, playing the objective game. Hex Mambo, they don't have an answer. They could have stepped up. They could have went for like a light defense, but Rapio doesn't have much steal potential. Spudio doesn't really want to commit his ultimate and get out of position. They have to play that as defensively as possible. Now with Beacon spawning in, I look towards the teleports. fineokay doesn't have one, right? He just used it. Julio, he's got teleport, but not quite upgraded. Could go to the tower at any moment, but it looks like the call is just to give this one up.
Hex Mambo unwilling to fight over the beacon, at least for the moment. They'll let this one go down to the Leviathans. And the Order side continuing to mount this lead. We were talking about Ronngyu. My eyes actually get drawn a little bit to the relics, because this is not one that I see super often. This upgraded version of the Ankh, and this early on in the game, I mean, is that just against the Terra on the other side?
Well, it absolutely owns Terra, but remember, the shielding is also a big play, so Julio's going to not appreciate it at all. Cozyx takes some damage, but can't knock up the Terra, so no way adapting chases that one down. It just gets a ton of value. That's the reason that Terra isn't always just favorable in the meta. It's not as if it's a hard ability to hit, right? The second that ultimate flies, you go, okay, let's onk the whole enemy team, and now we've dealt with that ultimate and actually made them worse off because of it.
Yeah, every time they heal, maybe a little bit of a detriment on the other side. Some pressure here. Leviathans perhaps looking to push down this left-hand side. Now that this Gold Fury has fallen, another couple minutes until we get the Pyromancer. I mean, this feels like the pacing that Hex Mambo have now wanted, right? 6 early kills. They answer back once over there in the solo lane. And the gold lead has continued to climb a little bit for the Leviathans. They get that major objective in the Gold Fury. If you're Mambo, what do your plans look like around this next Gold Fury? You've got 2 minutes to prep for it. Do you want a full-on fight here?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the Leviathans have done everything they've wanted, right? They went to gold, grabbed it. They're going to go to Beacon, grab it. They're going to go right to Pyromancer, attempt to grab it. So Mambo has done nothing. They've just sat by and attempted to defend Cage just to keep Cozyx away. But they drop the Pyromancer. They're going for the kill.
They get the double value on the ultimate Rapio, trying to put out the damage, but they get the Pyromancer, and it's Rapio actually on the first kill of the fight.
There's 2.
Double for the mid laner. Sheento falls down. It's fineokay on the retreat now. The jump is down, and the damage will not be enough to take down the Odin. So the Pyromancer goes over to Levi's, but a good couple of kills there for the Mambo.
It was going to catch up eventually, Frog. You can't use 2 ultimates for a Pyromancer. And of course, they were looking for Cozyx. That was the target. But you can't use that much, right? You need a little bit more for the team fight. Dzoni has a beautiful wraparound. Sheento, you lose both relics and fall down, because if there's a Camazotz within melee range of you and you still have not leaped, that's going to be a kill just about every day of the week. So both relics down, Sheento is going to have to play so safe. Runic Bomb does go over to fineokay, so he could use that to try and just destroy that right tower anytime he wants. But not the end of the world. The Hex Mambo finally showed some light in this game.
And that may be the first step towards answering back. Maybe the second step around this Oni Fury close to spawning. Still a little bit early in the game. We've seen already today a couple trades, Fury for Fire Giant if they wanted to step up to that. But I mean, this is shaping up to potentially be a fight favored for Hex Mambo on the left side of the map. My eyes keep going back to this lead that Spudio has over there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Spudio had a 2-level lead just a second ago. Now, a little bit evened up, call it half a level at this point. This Hachiman will be able to rotate in and make a big difference. I'm just looking at all the chain CC that could come through for the Leviathans. You've got Shadow Lock into the Axe. Adapting is almost always there to try and hit a knockup. It's not going to be fun to try and step forward to the Leviathans, especially if you're pushing into them. You're going to walk into a Nox combo eventually. You're going to take the mean end of an Ullr Axe eventually. So Hex Mambo are going to have to worry about that one. You asked what to do in preparation. Preparation's done, right? Oni Fury has spawned back in, both teams. Not looking at it just yet, but a little bit of vision on the left side of the map, mostly here for the Leviathans.
Well, it's Hex Mambo who got the objective, kind of snuck right under the nose of the Chaos side there for the first one. They want to make sure that that does not happen again. So they've got the word coverage, they've got the positioning. They might have to fight on this left-hand side. Adapting down low, forced to use the beads, but it's fineokay on the teleport, and he's on to Spudio. Dzoni gets pulled over, but he takes the 1v1 and takes down Adapting. On the other side, Spudio falls down early in the fight. It's a 1-for-1 thus far, but everybody's here to continue, and it's fineokay who has the damage of full-on grouping here as Leviathans force Mambo back.
Wow, what a blunder there. I'm amazed Adapting took that out. He thought he could 100-0 Dzoni before he went up into bat to hell, but he did not have the damage for a play like that. Dzoni trades the kill and gets out with his life. Unfortunately, Spudio cannot say the same. So a trade at the end of the day, and Oni Fury stands tall. But still, I mean, when we're talking about objectives, I think we're still at the point where the Leviathans have an overwhelming success rate. That final judgment is going to be the best confirmation. PandaCat still has decent DPS. It's really Fire Giant. That's where the issue arises. The HP bar is just too high to pull quickly. The Leviathans haven't given up on this side of the map. They are staying, hovering around this Oni Fury. Not going to go in for the pull, though. Maybe you wait for fineokay's teleport to be back up.
Beacon spawn for the second time here, and this time, Hex Mambo don't want to give it up for free. A 2v2, just in terms of positioning. It looks like they will back off, concede a little bit of that pressure for now. My eyes go to the supports, Trelly. Ronngyu, been so impactful on these lockdowns around some of these objectives. Cozyx as well, been popping the ult on multiple players, had some impactful stuns there. And I'm really focused on the tankiness because take a look at the builds. None of that Lono's math coming through from the mage support. And despite the level lead, I mean, are you worried about Ronngyu potentially getting shredded down in some of these fights?
I mean, he looks very tanky at the moment. It seems like he's just building into that tank style of build. Eventually, all tanks end up being a bit squishy depending on, you know, what kind of build the carries are going for. fineokay has not had that problem all game. My man has been diving the back line, popping the shield, repeating the process, and been sitting just fine. But PandaCat has to watch out. Johnny's nearby, adapting, mirroring that rotation. But the tier 1 is all Mambo came for, and they'll back up, which is smart, because if you take a fight and lose it here, it's not just the tier 1 tower you might lose. That Oni Fury is also on the cards.
That's the first tower down there, and it's in favor of Hex Mambo, despite this gold lead. Perhaps an experience lead as well on some characters. Hex Mambo have done perhaps exactly what they were looking to do. They sort of stem the bleeding, make these fights kind of bounce back and forth as they get a pick here and there. And so far, the objectives ever since those first two really haven't been able to be looked at. The Leviathans hesitant to full commit onto this Gold Fury, hesitant to full commit onto this Pyromancer that's now respawned. Do you think this is a mistake? Should they be pushing their lead a little bit harder, or are they now at the point where they're content to be scaling?
Yeah, I mean, you just can't go in for a risky call anymore. The Hex Mambo finally started fighting back, and because of that, you gotta play safely. fineokay finally does drop that Runic Bomb over on right, so that tier 1 tower drops down. This is an objective you can pull much easier. Pyromancer, low stakes. You can sort of feel it out, check if Mambo have vision. Cozyx and Rapio are nearby, but they have no steal attempt. so they have to let it go. But look at this, Spudio immediately pulls the Oni Fury. And now the question is, the Leviathans go and defend or they pull fire? And I can see the grouping. I know what they want.
I don't think they can get there in time even if they want to, but looks like they want the fight instead. Phantom Shell comes out, and Cozyx, the damage comes through, and it's not enough. He's still alive under the tier 1 tower. They're looking for a little bit more, but Julio is here, and now Spudio has joined the fray. Dzoni trying to chase down fineokay, and it's low health bars from the Leviathans. They've been pushed back, and maybe now an opportunity here for the Hex Mambo.
That was a great pathing by the Leviathans. It seemed like one pick should have came through, but everyone makes it out safe. Hex Mambo, though, he's got aggressive positioning. fineokay had to teleport back in just to make sure Fire Giant didn't get looked at. And that's going to be it. Just a little bit more farming. The Oni Fury goes down. Hex Mambo full-on retreat. They're trying to get to level 20. You can see, you mentioned it a bit earlier on, there's a lot of XP in favor of Dzoni compared to adapting. He's been farming a bit more. Duo lane also looking clean. Spudio has that level lead, but there's also some outliers. Of course, fineokay, he's had the lead essentially all game. And then if you look towards Ronngyu, he's got a lead. So it's a bit spread out. It's not as if any team feels real confident just going in for an objective pull. I really did think the Leviathans were going to try their luck, but I wouldn't doubt the call was, hey, we don't have the DPS to do fire. Let's look for a pick.
It all depends on where you want to put the engage, put the damage. Really, if you're either side at this point, because we're at the point in the game where these objectives, these fights start to mean quite a bit more. If you lose 3, you lose 4, around a 20-minute mark, that's a guaranteed Fire Giant, a guaranteed couple of structures. Hex Mambo have already taken down 2 of these towers as well in mid and left. I mean, you're looking at these comps, Charlie, we talked a bunch about scaling. Let's talk about how these fights go in the late game. Who are you favoring as these compositions scale up?
Well, I told you, fineokay's cage is still getting massive value now. There is only one Phantom Shell to deal with, but eventually that cage is just going to be dealt with. Everyone's going to auto-attack it once, you get out, and now you've lost a massive teamfight ultimate, whereas Julio, he can blink in, he can hit a massive 5-man Sentinel of Zeus and slow the enemy team, right? There is plenty of value if you can get to an even standpoint, if you can get to 30 minutes, hit level 20, get that upgraded Sundering Heads. There are options here for Mambo, but I still favor the Leviathans as it stands. They've got the big power spikes, they have the important level leads, and of course, I'm looking towards Sheento, man. He hasn't hit like these game-winning ultimates just yet. That's because it's still early game. Thoth, late game, that final judgment can absolutely win a team fight.
He's got that Obsidian Shard online at a good spot in the build. This grouping, though, it's a big one. 5 members for both squads grouping up around the Fire Giant. Only 22 minutes in. I think maybe there's a little bit more farm to get, but Hex Mambo, both Leviathans as well, eager to find somebody out of position, catch anybody that they can start the engage on. I mean, if you're looking at these squads, sure, maybe, you know, once the fight starts, you have favorites. What is the engage? We talked about the cage for the Leviathans. On Mambo on the other side, I thought Dzoni under some pressure. Beats get forced, as does the ultimate. I don't know if you can go back in here, though. Those are massive tools to get pulled from the jungler.
You most certainly cannot. You lost your beads, and double relics off of Rapio adapting. He is nearby, sees the Thunder Crash, but Tier 1 tower seems to be the target here for the Levi's. They take as much as they can. They might have to rack up. There is still DPS on side of Mambo.
You lose Final Judgment, you lose Gravity Surge, and Dzoni, of course, loses the invulnerability there in the ultimate as well. So some tools off the board. More importantly, I think, are the relics, though. That's both safety tools off of the mid laner for Hex Mambo. Rapio, especially an aggressive pick like Raijin, you have to be careful with your positioning the next 160 seconds.
And there's so much CC. I mean, we saw that Ronngyu started off that engagement. He dashed in, he used the combo. Didn't even connect with Dzoni, but it was enough damage to force out the beat, force out the ultimate, because the rest of the Leviathans were there. That can happen to just about anyone, especially if Rapio is seen anywhere near this Fire Giant. There's going to be some blinks, there's going to be some dashes, there will be engage. Raijin with no relics, even with alternate timeline.
Fire Giant picked up, shredding not too fast. Hex Mambo, they're right here, they're ready to take the fight. Down to half HP, and the Terra ultimate onto a few, but they're pushing through the Fire Giant, and the damage is there. Adapting the first to fall. Ronngyu 6 feet under as well. The final judgment hits Dzoni. It'll force the back off from Mambo, but 2 picks and they're back on the fire.
Yep, fineokay can teleport back in, but Fire Giant's coming quick. It's only Sheento is close by for the time being, and he's got to get something, but he's getting stunned.
Good stun, looking for the low Fire Giant, a blink in from fineokay, but it's the Mambo that secure the objective. fineokay looking for a little bit more low health bars for the Hex Mambo, and this chase is still on for the Odin. They've got the rest of the team grouping up as well. This is not done if they want to fire this, and Cozyx is the one to fall. They'll find 2, and those will only not have the Fire Giant. Only 3 with the Fire Giant for Mambo.
Yeah, and the tail end, we're able to pull the beads there from Spudio. Feared an axe from PandaCat. Not terrible. Hex Mambo do have Fire Giant on Spudio. That's the biggest deal as far as I'm concerned. Your tower damage needs that Fire Giant buff, and Spudio has it. But losing your tanks is going to hurt. That regen can be great when you're trying to juggle tower aggro or even look towards a Phoenix. Let's talk about the engage though. Let's talk about how Hex Mambo even got that Fire Giant. It was the Leviathans getting aggressive. They tanked the Fire Giant a bit too long. They tanked a lot of damage. And Hex Mambo just re-engaged, right? It wasn't anything flashy. They just chased down.
They're like, the Fire Giant seems to be half health in front of me. I might walk in here and attack the enemy team. I mean, what do the Leviathans do better there? Is it just short-sighted on you can't really pull the Fire Giant there in front of a ready-to-engage Hex Mambo? Or is it them not shredding it down as fast as maybe they thought they would?
It didn't seem like pulling in a 5v5 was the best idea, right? If you have a pick, maybe that goes a bit differently, but Leviathans tried their luck. Dzoni sees the Fury. Doesn't seem like he has much to steal, and he does, and Leviathans will grab that one no problem. But I still want to see Mambo group up here. They have Fire Giant on 3. They have the ability to step into some towers. It's just you got to play around that Odin cage. Don't want to walk up too far. Phantom Shell back up in 3. Now they have the ability to get active.
This is the pacing that the Hex Mambo have looked consistent with throughout the entire year. Fantastic SCC regular season. Now they're here at Worlds and continuing to keep up this team fight style, focused macro play style. And they've scaled. Look at this gold lead. It's been cut to only 3,000 here, less than 3,000. And now the Fire Giant in the pockets of 3. Grouped up on this right-hand side. The Leviathans ready to step up to a tier 2 tower. Rapio with the Raijin takes down PandaCat, and the tier 1 tower under pressure as well. Ronngyu getting caught out too far forward. The tank's under pressure, and Dzoni is on a killing spree.
Yeah, fineokay still sticking around though. Wants to get his team active, wants to step forward, but it forced to retreat backwards. Hex Mambo, they're not running away though. They've got damage and a full health Camazotz in the back line. This tier 2 tower is the target of their aggression, and they're playing this one slow.
Got some healing as well with the Terra and a 5v3 man advantage here. But look at fineokay. He's teleported behind all of them to come and find the engage. Dzoni turning around, and it'll force the jump over the wall. The step in here, they've got the minions. They look like they want to be careful. Maybe a little bit too careful though. They have to back off. They'll make sure they don't lose anybody and just take 2 towers for the price of a couple kills.
Man, I was looking at PandaCat's relics, expecting him to use one of them. Didn't have any available. I'm shocked he was even that far up with no relics. Ends up getting punished for it dearly. His Ronngyu, his duo lane partner, falls down as well. Hex Mambo, they're able to get a little bit of damage towards the bird, but more specifically, that tier 2 tower. Not the end of the world. You already highlighted it. This game just about even as far as gold goes. But I do think these Fire Giant fights are going to start favoring Hex Mambo pretty heavily. It's not as if Leviathans have no win cons. They've got Final Judgment. They have answers. But Spudio can shred through that in no time, right? He's about to get into Deathbringer once he gets a little bit more gold in the pocket. Cozyx is finally getting a little bit tankier. This Terra was behind, not so much anymore. And of course, Julio caught up. Remember, fineokay hit level 20 a while ago. Julio, it took him a bit, but now that he's online, he just now upgrades teleport. He can be a lot more mobile.
28 minutes into this one, and we're in EFG territory, Trelly. 30 minutes crossing the threshold, and all of a sudden this objective gets a lot more important. And we're starting to hit some big power spikes as well. Soul Reaver here for both mages. Serrated Edge online for Dzoni. Crit coming online as well for Spudio, that Deathbringer finish. There is a ton of raw damage coming through on this Hex Mambo squad. And if you're Leviathans, maybe all comes off the back of one miscommunicated, maybe not the best decision in the Fire Giant pull. if you're the Leviathans, you're thinking about this next EFG fight, how are you trying to take it? Is it just a full-on engage and maybe for just bait the Fire Giant?
Oh no, the Leviathans shouldn't be pulling anymore. As far as I'm concerned, this is EFG in 30 seconds. They should not be the first ones to pull this Fire Giant. Any reason for them to take poke is not wise. Cozyx has heals, right? There is sustain on the side of Hex Mambo. They can take a pull, back up, get some HP, try again. The Leviathans, if they pull, they're either committing to a fight or committing to the burst, which is still scary. Final Judgment is a great tool for confirming EFG, but it's even better for killing people, right? That's what you're trying to go for. You want to just delete someone off the center of the map, and if you use it for one, that's the go button. Hex Mambo's gonna say, hey, Final Judgment's down, let's dive, let's go in. We don't have to worry about our Aegis anymore.
Sheento's been focused on that ultimate pretty much all game and just waiting for it to hit the right target, press the delete button on one of these carries. But it's pressure, a little bit from Hex Mambo, a little bit from the Leviathans. Both teams, once again, having this dance around the Fire Giant pit. Might be Ronngyu, but
there
a little damage, and that's the Final Judgment through Rapio, down to about half HP, but the Fire Giant now being looked at as Ronngyu has picked it up, and the damage coming through from the Leviathans. Rapio sticking around though, the blink in from Julio onto the back, and they've been stuck on the objective. Jump in, and 4 strong as Julio has to back out of the fight. But Dzoni makes a huge play on the back line, finds Ronngyu, and Adapting's alone in the front line as he finds Sheento adapting to fall, and Dzoni does get taken down. A 1-for-2 trade as the Mambo are forced to back off.
And that's what I'm talking about. The Leviathans once again went in for the pull. They had 2 runic bombs. They felt confident, but become so scary when you lose track of the Camazotz. He just does so much damage, and of course, Adapting almost finds the kills, but now it's all on fineokay. Sheento on the way forward. He's got that alternate timeline, so there is a little bit he can play with here, but it's already down. It's already down. Rapio's the only one who has that cooldown available, and Fire Giant going slowly.
Down to about half HP here as once again all of the members alive grouping up for the objective, but it's the damage there from Sheento through the wall, knocking down Cozyx to a low health bar. Once again, it's pressure from this Final Judgment. And you gotta imagine if he keeps throwing him out, eventually he's just gonna delete someone off the map.
That's the thing. One more big power spike as far as the red buff, the enhanced, or the elixir of power rather, a power pot, all of that needs to come through, and Sheento can absolutely 100-0 one of these carries. And even Dzoni as well. He has no defense. If he's in the jungle, it works out a little bit better, but Rapio didn't Aegis the last one. He's like, I can't get 100-0. I've got alternate timeline. It's gonna take one or two ticks of hieroglyphic assault after that ult, and you will die after an alternate timeline. You have to watch out for Sheento's damage. Leviathans didn't have to worry about the EFG. That one got stalled out thanks to fineokay, thanks to Sheento's ult. But we're back to the dance, Frog. Back to the EFG. 10-10. The gold lead is even, the kills are even, and the map state is just about even.
The game on a knife's edge here. How you feeling, man? Feeling good? Feeling energized?
I'm feeling probably not as good as these guys. They're probably a bit nervous.
How you guys feeling? I'm ready, man. These teams are about to get it going, and it's all on this Fire Giant dance. Hex Mambo, you talked about them being the ones that have to be able to step up into this one. It looks like Cozyx will do just that. Soft pull.
They don't have relics yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a relic graveyard over there.
Like, wait 40 seconds at least.
Maybe just testing the waters thus far. That beacon has spawned now. Could be a contention point. I think these teams are looking for any excuse to find an engage, any excuse to gain an advantage in one of these fights.
We might see Titans march out once again if this game goes a little bit longer. Hex Mambo, I still favor as the team to go for the pull, but it's got to be a bait. They have to look for the fight afterwards, and more specifically, the Leviathans have to track Dzoni. Where is the bat? Where is Camazotz? Do we have eyes on him? Is he already killing Sheento? All of these things need to be going through your comms. Vision on the side of Mambo and Leviathan, so they know exactly what's going on here. Even if they go in for Fire Giant, 2 runic bombs and a Final Judgment, burst looks good. They're gonna take a lot of damage.
Focus, I think you're right to put it onto Dzoni. He has been a fantastic engage tool, maybe just a chaos tool, finding himself in the back line of the Leviathans more often than not in these fights. And maybe a rather quiet late game out of Adapting here. After starting off hot with a couple of those kills, he has been 0-4, I think, since early on in the game. Maybe struggling to get involved a little bit on this Awilix. I mean, if you're adapting, are you just waiting for your team to be in the right spot, or do you think that he should be playing similarly to Dzoni? Maybe
Hold
trying to
that
find a flank. Hold it, though. Julio blinking onto Sheento, burns the beads, and the dash will come through. Ultimate through from Julio. That's a ton of damage, and the Sunder is there to force the Nike back off from the fight. Jump in from fineokay, though, and Hex Mambo don't want any more damage. They have to back off to the tier 1.
Yeah, that was just for a tier 1 tower, by the way. That's what that scrap was all about. I mean, both of these teams know exactly where their engage lies, know when they can bite off more than they can chew, and they know when they have to absolutely retreat. And unfortunately for adapting, Awilix is just so much harder to pilot this late in the game. EFG started up, Leviathans, they've got vision, they know exactly what is going on. Ronngyu hops in with a teleport, the whole squad arrives, and that means Hex Mambo has to back up.
They started the Fire Giant, and Leviathans, they're the ones that have stayed on this objective. Now it's PandaCat leash, it has to hop out. It's both the tanks here for the Leviathans. Look on the right-hand side, though. No beads for Sheento.
There it is.
And Dzoni takes all of his HP from the final judgment. Spudio finds adapting on the other side, though. Rapio gets Ronngyu. Sheento falls down, and it's 3 to fall for the Leviathans. Make it 4 as fineokay finds the gray screen, and they're going to push it down right.
That is ridiculous. That was an aggressive mounted archery for Spudio. We had a hunter in the back line like an assassin. Who needs enhanced fire giant? PandaCat buys a potion of power, both relics available, has to go massive here for his squad.
This would have to be a 1v5, a miracle defense from PandaCat, and he does not have enough in the tank. Hex Mambo, the SCC squad, take game number 1.
Wow, what a back and forth battle. The Leviathans had the early game down, but eventually this composition had to fall off. Eventually the late game had to come, and Hex Mambo waited just for that moment to strike.
And Charlie, the Leviathans, the number 2 seed coming into this tournament. Game number 1, Slaney thought it was an advantage to have Hex Mambo not knowing their strategies. Maybe the Leviathans didn't know Hex Mambo's strategies. They came out and they waited for their time to strike. And when they did, they looked dominant in those fights.
Yeah, and again, they played their strengths so perfectly. They knew late game is where we're going to win. Right now, not looking so good. Adapting is looking pretty unkillable, but we can get a shutdown. If we can get Spudio online, we can get some more damage. They start looking a lot cleaner, and late game is exactly where they should have won that game, and that's exactly what they waited for.
Some of those early kills you get on the world stage. I mean, remember, this is for 3 of these players, their first Worlds appearance ever.
Yep.
And you got to appreciate the mental fortitude. After going down 6-0 in kills, adapting gets off to a hot start, and they're able to fight back into the game. That's an insane game 1. We're ready. You're going to stick around for game number 2. We'll be right back after the break.
So let me fly, take a chance, give it a try. So let me fly, chase it like it's do or die. Take a chance,
world.
So as I said in the previous interview we had with Gormeister when we won against Glads, like I wasn't really too happy because we lost against Ravens, and I think we could have done a lot personally as well. We could have played a lot better in that set.
Ravens obviously was more of a learning set for us, I think. You kind of learn what the meta was and stuff like that, because obviously the top 4 or 5 teams in SPL are way better than even the Glads who we played against. So I think it's just about learning in that Ravens set. Still could have won the set, which I know people were disappointed about, but it's obviously I think it's just good for the long run.
I think we are pretty confident against any SPL teams. We really didn't prep anything, but one day is like enough, you know, for every SPL team.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a pretty fun set. I think obviously everyone on Mambo is like we're all like well matched. I think to compete with any team in SPL really, like individually and as a team. It's just about making sure we're prepared for the set because you know, it could be some stuff that we haven't seen even in the World Qualies. So
I think we both play kind of similar style. Well, like for example, fineokay and me. I don't think we are the best laners, but we kind of shine our best in team fights. So it's gonna be definitely a good matchup. Obviously, playing a world stage, let's see what happens, and hopefully we can make a good run.
Oh yeah, Slaney's time for bed. Putting the old man to bed now, you know. Yeah, new kid in town now, so Slaney's going down.
Play. It's finding my zone. Looking, performing, and competing the way only I can. It's when the pressure is on and I'm ready to make my move. Snatching victory, a miracle run, legend status. Feeling my best and owning the moment. It's why I play. Play Unlimited.
Hex Mambo certainly looked mighty comfortable in game 1. Bring back Siege! We got some agreement from the crowd.
Sounds divisive.
Where do you land on that debate?
I play Conquest.
Understood. Players looked comfortable on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, SMITE viewers everywhere, I'm your resident seating expert, as you might remember. Let me tell you a bit about Herman Miller and how it's comfortable for our players on stage. It is the best-in-class gaming seat, and all of our players on stage this weekend sitting in their Herman Millers, and they're looking good while doing it. Thanks to Herman Miller for being with us here for SMITE World Championship Season 10. And who looked the most comfortable, fellas on the desk? Was that a good one or no?
I like the one where you look like a lighter.
Do you remember that? I had the little costume on and
No, that was a shot in the dark. I got lucky.
That was many, many moons ago. Moments of glory just around the corner, brought to you by SteelSeries. And it's Hex Mambo with the biggest moment of all as they take down the SPL Hazer in game 1.
Yeah, look at the scoreline at this point, 6-2-0. The Leviathans got off to an absolutely monstrous start, but Dzoni and the boys, what mental fortitude to come back into this one. They never gave up, they never said, okay, we'll run it down. They played their game, they played it slow, and they started to pick out fights on the solo side of the map. And then Rapio was just pumping out damage on this Raijin, Bobby.
Yeah, and for my money, Levi's kind of played this early game after their 6-0 lead a little sloppy. I don't think we really recognized what they were able to do. We saw that Pyro fight, unable to take the fight. They play a little bit too far forward, and they get a little caught out with their shot call. 2 of them look to take the fight, 2 of them look to do the objective, and then losing the fight off of it. And that happened a few times before we even got to that late game. And then when you talk about that late game, I mean, for sure, you got to talk about Dzoni, what he's able to do in those.
Absolutely. He was able to survive and get into the backline with those swoops. And I want to talk about that highlight we just saw. We talked about it on the pregame desk. Spudio went crit, and Spudio was critted. You better believe it. He absolutely demolishes adapting in that last fight, which leads to the game end. I loved this Envenom Deathbringer for him, helping deal with the shields as well, Myth.
I mean, I'm just going to shout out the players that really impressed me because you guys hit all the high-level stuff. Rapio pops off.
Yeah,
I mean, let's talk about how he gets first blooded. He's down 2 to 3 levels, has the bounce back performance, and then dominates the team fights. You wouldn't expect that from a Raijin. When I think of Raijin from behind, they generally stay behind, especially against a composition like this. this from the Leviathans, which I had thought was perfectly suited to deal with the mid lane mage. So great bounce back from him, massive damage output, and then as we already said, good jungle performance from Dzoni too.
One thing I wanted to touch on as well is Julio playing the Nike shield. There was a Sunder there to take him down. There was an Ankh there to deal with him as well. And there was an Awilix ult waiting to see if he tried to jump out. And he played it so well. He was just juking in and out of team fights, not jumping because he knew he was going to get Awilix ult in and die. And he played that so clean on the Nike. What a performance by him.
And the space he was able to get during all that time, Dzoni was able to pick up a bunch of backliners because of the space Julio's providing. And at the same point, the Nox isn't able to frontline like the Terra was. It was a complete difference. And if Julio was able to get that type of space, they can take down that Nox rather quickly. So I liked how they kind of changed how they were late game team fighting from the earlier portion of the game.
It was almost as if they made an active decision. Look, we're not going to win these spread out skirmishes. The counter matchups that you brought up, Bobby, like the Nox directly into the Terra, we got to see that throughout the early game, and they said, well, if we can't win there, why play there? Let's play the 5-on-5. Meet me at the Gold Fury, meet me at the Pyromancer. So I think that adaptability mid-match from Hex Mambo was something I was very impressed by, because generally the SEC, that's where they struggle. They always come in with a plan and they stick to it, but these guys, they're adapting on the fly. They're taking in new information, nuance. No, I'm talking about Mambo.
Got it.
You got
okay.
Levi's.
Yeah, you can't say the word adapting when talking about the Leviathans unless you're talking about the player. That's
the king, Kenneth.
Now there are forces of history at work here. Remember, the Leviathans last year at Worlds, they were defending their SMITE World Championship. What happened? Not a great quarterfinal round for the Leviathans last year. Different roster this year, but this is a best of three. Funky things happen in best of threes. Pros tend to be a little bit more wary of these types of matchups. And now the Leviathans have no choice. You have to win the next two games or your Worlds run is over yet again.
And I want to see the Levi's kind of switch up this first side P's and B's. I didn't mind their comp, but they weren't able to play through that early game portion and actually look to dominate. If they do want to go back to the same type of comp, they have to snowball better. If you go to that late game portion again, the Mambo comp just plays so much easier. And Miflup's talking about how easy is a comp to play. The Mambo comp was just a lot easier to play.
Oh, I thought, Miff, you were going to touch on
Well, I can't talk about how easy these comps are just yet. We're in the bands.
You're right. No, I was looking at PandaCat looking like ominously over the arena with fire and brimstone on either side of him. He's going to need some of that here in game number 2. Now, Miff, when the bands roll through, albeit somewhat similar, but Leviathans making some changes to their strategy before game 2.
I really want to see the Leviathans pick up a Hunter pick in top 3. I know that Ullr is something that PandaCat's capable of playing, but there are just stronger meta selections out there. And I think having been in the studio or in the venue here today, a lot of people calling for more meta selections from the Leviathans after watching that last draft. So things like On Her immediately jumped to my mind as a highly contested pick that's still available. If Hex Mambo don't grab it here, I think it's likely we see the Levi's go towards it.
And he even had the opportunity for that Rama that you were calling for, and he goes for that Ullr. So it's not even a top 3 pick. He just has to pick something that's a little bit better than that Ullr.
And one thing I love about Ram in this situation is we've seen this combo a lot over the last few weeks with the teams qualifying in. Thoth plus Ram. Snipes able to hit the backline from both of your backliners, makes your dive so much better. I really, really like that combo. On the other side, Hex Mambo lock into Baba Yaga. And one thing I want to note here is Rapio does not go cloak on Baba Yaga. He tends to go towards more full damage build to make sure he can take down the enemy solo laner. So that's something to keep an eye on as this game goes forward.
I was not expecting this at all. I mean, it's a much better Hunter, a top 3 Hunter to be sure, and aggressive, allows him to play through his lane, can meet you evenly throughout the early, has hyper pressure on PvE, so wave pressure. It's all good from Ishtar. Decent threat on beads as well from the ultimate. But I'm just so surprised to see PandaCat stray away from the On Her.
And I love the dodgy pick here for the Mambo into this Levi's comp. There is so much potential for this dodgy to just absolutely pop off. We saw Dzoni last game in a more difficult matchup with this Camazotz, and he was still able to feast. This game, even easier opportunity here. I do want to see the Mambo throw away ban stuff that make dodgy harder to play. Even if Geb's not played too much right now, just get rid of it. There's no reason to risk it. Punish this Awilix, punish this Thoth with that dodgy.
It was a Nike solo in game number 1. Will not be the case for either team rolling into game 2. Dodgy, Hazer, 75% ban rate. First time we'll see it here this weekend. But looks like we're sticking with some frontline bans in the second wave.
Yeah, Daji just going to get locked in because you've got a Thoth, you've got an Awilix. Neither of them have a CC immune ult. One thing we have actually seen is Awilix picking up an item to cleanse out those chains with that magic protection, Absolution, and ulting to cleanse the chains. We'll see if that's the option for adapting here. On the other side, it will be Terra and Ganesh taken away, and a Khepri ban, a god who I don't think we've seen head nor tail of so far this event, or even the previous one.
No, it's been a while. Last time we saw the Khepri was Genetics, I believe, as the ROM is locked in for Hex Mambo.
Oh, that was a copy paste that I started.
You know what I was
way to take credit for that one.
You know what I was about to say? I cannot believe we left pens and blank signs in the lobby, and everyone has been really well behaved today.
I can't believe we're aiming our cameras at those. That's crazy.
That's a good one, but we got to refocus, unfortunately. Fortunately, because it's a good set. Back onto picks and bans. Rama locked in for Hex Mambo. Again, final 4 picks tends to be when the teams slow things down and think a little extra. What seems to be missing in your mind, Myth, from the Leviathans comp?
I always look towards initiators. You haven't got one exactly just yet. Awilix can start things off somewhat with the gravity surge, but otherwise a standardized Guardian would do really well in this slot. So many bans dedicated to the role, though. It makes it difficult. I wonder then if you could even flex perhaps a warrior into support if you're concerned about pressure, and I think you should be on the side of the Leviathans. Went out easily in pressure in game 1, but weren't quite able to solidify their lead. As far as dedicated selections go, my eyes do go towards that Ares. I'm just a massive Ares fan right now. Feels like the bolster defense aura on top of just threat on beads would be able to match at least a little bit of the pressure that you're getting from the Daji. But Bobby, you're the support player here on the desk. What do you think?
That is a tough pick to play. Ymir? You're gonna have
Talk me through it.
You're gonna have me pick something right here, and I was gonna say maybe something a little bit more safe, keep the boys alive.
Inbound, you would have picked Ymir, right?
Ymir is at the back of my head for this game. This is a difficult god. I don't hate it, but it's just so difficult to play into this comp. Who are you looking to bully out? Osiris walks through your wall. Baba can jump it. Rom, yes, but Rom wastes so much time in the air. And this is what I was gonna say, the pick into it. Kuzenbo. Cozyx plays this into Thoth, and it's impossible for the Thoth to do anything. The onus and everything that Ymir has to do is so difficult in a game like this. And compared to Kuzenbo's job, it's night and day. Kuzenbo just presses 2 and walks at the Thoth.
Ease of play, Bobby. You know I love talking about it, and it ain't looking so good here for the Leviathans. I mean, it is a composition that can certainly work. Let's get ahead of it there. The Ymir's got decent opportunity to isolate the Kuzenbo throughout the early, so there's the flip side of it. Kuzenbo can kind of bully out the Ymir too. It seems to be feast or famine for both of these supports, but easy to lock down Rom, even if he's wasting some time. If you pull a lead with Ymir, good objective secure, good burn, good DPS throughout the early. Fall behind on Ymir though, and I think that's exactly what Bobby was talking about.
Yeah, I think Ymir is one of these feast or famine gods though, right? You pull ahead, but I feel like more often than not, it's the latter, where you fall behind, you go 0-3, 0-4, 0-5, and it's so easy to be picked off from that point. Ymir just a god that lacks safety. The walls are so powerful in the late game, but it's really, really difficult to get there.
The one thing I do want to put our attention to with this Levi's comp, because I do think that there is very high strengths to it. The objective burn, the objective secure that this comp has, if the Mambo leave objectives for 5 seconds even, there's so much shred and that the confirm that I was talking about. That's not on the Mambo side. They really don't have anything like that. So if there is even a small lead for this Levi's, I expect him to exploit it, going to Gold Furies, Pyros, Fire Giants, and Mambo have to be ready and warded almost at all times.
And they haven't even exactly got good burn on the side of Mambo either. Find a pick. Daji's actually pretty decent out of the jungle to help you out in burn, but Baba Yaga has got to be the most worthless mage as far as objectives are concerned. So Atlantis Leviathans is going to have clear advantage in that department. There is something to be said as well about the crit build for Ishtar, even further bolstering that burn. This could be a draft for the Leviathans where they completely forego PvP, and the whole call is, let's get on gold, let's get on pyro, let's keep them on cooldown, and make sure Hex Mambo, even if they are winning out in team fights, don't have anything to do.
One thing I wanted to touch on with this Levi's comp, going in with a comp like this that you need to pull the trigger on, right? You need to pull the trigger on Gold Furies, pull the trigger on Fire Giants. Your tournament life is on the line. Can you make those decisions? Can you make those hard to make calls and have everybody stick to them when the pressure is this high?
I'm glad we talked about the Leviathans because it was seeming like there was some favorites towards Hex Mambo going into game 2. Will the SCC prevail, or will the Leviathans send us to a game 3? Onto the casters we go to find out.
The potential here for history to repeat itself. Leviathans fell last year in the quarterfinals. They could fall this year. They have to win the next 2 games if they want to make it onto the semifinals. Meanwhile, Hex Mambo feels like they've gotten a draft that they're pretty comfortable with. I know we were talking before the game, Dzoni on Daji, maybe, you know, a little bit of chills, a little bit of ice in the veins.
I saw everyone in the arena go, ooh, the second that Daji got locked in. I'm telling you.
It's certainly ready for game number 2 here. And I think the Leviathans have taken a couple different looks towards this draft. I asked you in game number 1, what were your thoughts on the composition? And I'll ask you here in game number 2 because quite a bit has changed in game number 2.
Frog, it's a night and day difference. This is a completely different composition. Sheento's on Thoth, Adapting's on Awilix. Cool. The rest has changed dramatically. Just adding the Ymir makes your engage a lot easier. Of course, Ronngyu has to watch out his positioning. He could easily be pushed through by Cozyx. You have to hold on to that shards of ice. You could get yoinked by Dzoni. That's scary. Next up, PandaCat goes from...
Whoa. Whoa.
Still favored. Still favored. The Leviathans are still favored in the Twitch poll, 51%. They are balancing on that 2% at the moment. But as I was saying, you go from one of the worst Fire Giant DPS ADCs to honestly one of the best. I mean, Ishtar, those shotgun auto attacks will destroy an objective if given the opportunity. The Leviathans recognize their problem with that draft. Like, bro, we got the lead. We just couldn't do fire.
You've got the Amaterasu as well.
Yep.
You have the tools in the pocket here for the Leviathans. Maybe that late game was something they were struggling with. And that, I mean, I was a little bit surprised when we saw this Awilix pick, especially as heavily prioritized as it was once again for adapting. I mean, it was something that owned the early game. The first 5 minutes of game number 1 was Adapting's playground. He got first blood. He was able to help out in some kills over in the solo lane.
I think he was 303 out of 6 kills, maybe 302.
Yeah, he was pretty much running the map, and then it all slows down, and you get to those late game team fights, a lot of struggles just from this, not necessarily adapting, just the pick, right? Awilix maybe struggling a little bit in that late game. A blink in from Cozyx, trying to pull back and freeze there.
Look at that
slow
trust,
things down.
Holds the beats.
Yeah, no, gotta give PandaCat some credit for that. But I mean, looking at the pick, adapting, going back to the Awilix, you think that's the right decision?
All right, first of all, I'm gonna give the credit to Ronngyu. PandaCat trusted him. So he's like, you're that good that I'm not gonna beat. Second of all,
fair.
Sorry, I was just looking at the dope play. One more time.
Fair.
What was the question?
Oh, what was the question? Awilix, good,
yeah,
not good.
Right, I still think that he's able to get aggressive early on, right? There is options for adapting. That is why this pick is so valued. But Dzoni knows how to deal with it, right? It wasn't as if the second that they kind of got owned early, Hex Mambo said, whoa, we got to take a step back. Okay, let's defend blue buff. They got owned at blue buff. They said, okay, now we are done. We are done stepping up to bad fights. We are done looking for engagements. We are going to farm until late game. And Spudio had a heck of a performance on that Hachiman, rightfully so, switching it up, not going back to the Hachi because he's not allowed to. The Rama still has late game carry potential. And come on, the snipes when you're on land in Arlington with this loud crowd behind you, it's gonna be hype.
Yeah, I know the crowd is ready for some
hear that?
hot
They want to see snipes.
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
Oh, and we'll see him. We'll see him. Maybe not until these teams are ready to scrap, though. And looking at these compositions, knowing the players, knowing the play style that, I mean, we had a Fire Giant dance on a knife's edge for 10 minutes, 5 minutes last game. I mean, this fighting, when do you expect it to get started? Where are the power spikes for these squads?
Well, I always look towards the first blue buff spawn, right? That's the easiest answer because, you know, both junglers will be on the right side of the map, and you got to look at health, right? fineokay, Julio, both full HP. Dzoni, adapting, both full HP, both have blink, but here's the difference. Adapting's a bit late, does not want to go in for the invade. Dzoni didn't even attempt it. He was here on time. He said, nope. We're both going to go for blowing back up. So that tells me one thing, Frog. We're not looking for engagements, right? The Leviathans know their tournament life is on the line here. Mambo, they're a game away from knocking out the Leviathans. They're both playing this so slow, so calculated, and towards power spikes. Then you got to talk about beads burn, right? When Dzoni is on this Daji pick, the powwow is going to be so impactful. Adapting, scared away from the blink. Sheento does not start Aegis this time. Just about everyone has a form of CC immunity locked and available. except fineokay, who's going to tick over to level 5 any second now, and he'll get it as well. That makes your targets a little bit harder. So Cozyx has a job here, and it is blink in, get beads. Open up the opportunity for Dzoni, and that's exactly what this Kuzenbo was picked for.
This Kuzenbo is not something we see often at all, and it gets last picked by Mambo. Something we've seen Cozyx on before, perhaps, you know, a comfort pick for him, but also one, I mean, Bobby was pretty excited about that one. Test man, it seems like it has a pretty good matchup here into a lot of the members on the Leviathans composition. And I'm a little bit worried for some of these members myself. You talk a lot about that beads burn, we've mentioned it as well, but no CC immunity innately for Sheento, for adapting on these picks. And these picks that were so heavily prioritized in the draft, I'm thinking back to Sheento's game 1. If they are first picking this Thoth, and now it's the potential to be the target of aggression, I mean, maybe you have to really play around making sure you get value out of this Thoth, out of that final judgment.
Well, yeah, the benefit of having Sheento on your team is that he will rarely be out of position, right? The man knows how to pilot mid laners, he knows when he can get ganked, and he knows when he can die. And all of those, if you're picking Thoth, you have to know all those things, because it's just one of the most, hey, I need help mid laners you can get. Like, the second an assassin is in melee range, you got to get out of there. You have to evade and punish, keep your distance, and then you use your range to your advantage. Yeah, Dzoni wants to take all that away. He's like, I'm just going to yoink you from across the map. Like, I'm just going to use my powwow and take you out of the fight. You get one set of beats. I wouldn't be surprised if an absolution came through, maybe even from adapting. Like, they have been plenty of absolution pickups throughout the entirety of these junglers when you have Ares in the meta, you have Daji in the meta, but Sheento might need a little bit of help.
Dash in from Dzoni, have the ultimate there from fineokay, but he holds on to it, ends up safe on the right-hand side. I mean, eyes over towards this right-hand side, though, is continuing that pressure onto the blue buff. Is Dzoni, is Julio, but he'll pull him back.
What?
And
Cozyx, you good?
A little bit questionable on the ultimate there, but the timing is perfect from adapting. He knows Johnny's on the other side of the map. He knows perhaps that this purple buff is about to spawn right as Spudio walking back from lane, but no ultimate as we just saw it used there from Cozyx. So it will be a successful invade.
You know what it was? He didn't check Adapting's relics. That's the only thing I could think of. He's like, I got walled, I'm about to get frozen, and once I get frozen, I'm gonna get knocked up, I'm gonna get pulled back, I'm gonna die. So I'm just gonna Watery Grave. And Adapting's like, bro, I got beads. Like, I looked across the map, I saw Dzoni on Daji, I did not get blinked this game. So understandable, hey, Watery Grave, not the worst cooldown to lose, especially at this moment. It's not as if, you know, Adapting can find a pull all the time. He's gonna have to be on point. There aren't too many knockups for him to find this game except ones that he creates. So I can see why you can just throw that ultimate out. Better safe than sorry. You don't want to give up first blood at this point. But we didn't see that action off the blue buff respawn. I don't think we're going to see too much action off these blue buff respawns. So that tells me we're looking towards buff invades and just being out of position. I still think relic timers are going to be the biggest deal here, especially for Hex Mambo.
Well, stay with me over in this all in for a second, because that surprises me, right? I would think, well, that actually, freeze potential coming out here. Spudio taking a little bit of damage. The ultimate from both hunters there. PandaCat falling low, but the follow-up is not there from either side. Both hunters knocked down low. Still, nobody falling this early on in the game. But I still want to talk, I mean, this Amaterasu is sort of a new pick back into the meta. We saw mages for a while, now we've seen warriors come back. Have not seen this Amaterasu really show face quite yet. Now on to fineokay. Maybe brings it just due to the objective stuff that we've already talked about, but these auto attackers in solo lane, I almost expected more sparks than we saw last game.
Right, because it was pretty much mages and Ama, right? That was the meta a while ago. The last time we saw the Ferryman, last time we saw the Leviathans play months ago, it was mages and Amaterasu. Still, Ama's gonna be fine. It just takes a bit. She does not have that lane presence that Julio has. That's why I thought more action would come, but Spudio gets pulled back in. The beads go through. Can Adapting find another feather step? That's the question.
Beads from both players there, but a good peel set from Cozyx will keep Spudio alive. Now, has to be careful, though. Those beads down for another 100+ seconds there on that left-hand side of the map. Looks like the fight might not be done. Dzoni and a blink in there onto PandaCat. Great peel coming through from Ronngyu, and they'll stop the engagement in its tracks. As they've been a lot of pressure over onto these hunters.
Yep, and I like the opportunity, but the double freeze pretty much shuts down that gank immediately, right? Dzoni's like, I got this. He jerks your spirits in, immediately gets stopped in his tracks. There was no more follow-up damage. so you got to give that gank up. But you called it out. Adapting, no beads for 2 minutes. Look on the other side, Spudio, no beads for 2 minutes. Those are going to be mirrored timers. So does Adapting want to get aggressive on those beads when his own are not up? I think Johnny's going to stick around duo lane just for that opportunity. He's like, I'll take that 1v1 every day of the week. And where's Johnny at? On shield buff right now. So Adapting's as far away from duo as possible. He's looking towards the right.
We talked about power spikes a little bit. Adapting on this right-hand side. I think it might be foolish to try and get a full engage onto the Osiris here with the stacked passive, but I mean, my eyes go to these mid-game objectives because we're getting to that point. 12 minutes for the beacon, Pyromancer just after, Gold Fury already on the map. What is not just necessarily the late game, but these mid-game spikes. If one of these teams wants to grab the reins for the game, hold that, fineokay. Forced to dash away, maybe forced into the ultimate, but once again, the patience from fineokay. And now, this opens up the Gold Fury.
Yeah, Adapting's on the right side of the map, though, so junglers will not be here. It's only Cozyx. He's got a Nene, but it's walled off. He still has a small steal opportunity, but Sheento's got the ult. Should be clean.
It is clean. Leviathans take the Gold Fury. The shards of ice that confirm it. And once again, Leviathans on the board first with the objective. And that's maybe what was more likely to happen like we haven't seen these teams fight yet. I don't know why I thought it was going to be a fight. It's just a macro play. They grab the Gold Fury pretty much for free.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Johnny gets called out. Hey, there's a Daji in right. Okay, let's go in for the Fury. Levi's know they've got pressure, they know they've got plenty of clear, and they know they have the burst. Sure, didn't end up working out too well. It wasn't as if Sheento needed that ultimate because Ronngyu had his back. I'm just amazed Johnny's went for fineokay twice now. As you saw, the 1,000 cuts has not forced Dazzling Offensive yet, and that's what needs to happen for this gang to work. Force out the ultimate early, pal out, pull him back in. fineokay's held this ultimate, he does not care. He has plenty of tank stats, plenty of sustain, and just rinse repeating the same gank is not going to work out. Especially once that Vital Amplifier gets online, he's going to be cooking.
fineokay has played on the world stage enough to be able to hold that ultimate for just when it's needed. That still begs the question, though, of when we are going to find this first blood. 10 minutes now into this game number 2. Both teams a little bit hesitant as they know. I mean, this is tournament life for the Leviathans. For Hex Mambo, they're doing what they did in game 1. They want to scale. They want to get towards this late game and maybe eyes towards the supports because this is a little bit of a different play style than we saw in game number 1. When we had the knocks, we had these early rotations forced out where you're trying to lock people down, get some of these early picks. This time, the supports have just stuck over here. But, you know, contrary to what the desk was worried about, this Ymir has not fallen down at all.
Right, there hasn't been too much opportunity to try and put Ronngyu down. He's just in good position. He's got that Ward Chalice of the Oracle, so he's going to have plenty of vision on his side of the map as well. It was just, hey, maybe Cozyx blinks in and pushes the Ymir. That's always a possibility, but Cozyx has not felt the need to blink in, right? And they are still, they have showed their hand time and time again. Hex Mambo want to play till late game. I was going to say, this old connects could be dangerous. And Johnny, that dodge, you felt that on the tails for sure. Like that there was a little bit of wind coming by. Luckily does not connect. Did turn his back and use the 1,000 cuts though, so would have mitigated a bit of damage, but I think he would have been deleted there.
A little bit of singe on the hairs there, just barely off the mark onto Johnny. And you can tell itching to get these opportunities where you can. Taking a look at the builds, Trelly, interesting where these soul laners have gone. You mentioned the Vital Amplifier and an Executioner on the side of Osiris. We've seen this a little bit, a couple different Osiris builds coming out today. Is this where you want to see the pressure from these auto-attack soul laners?
I mean, this is what Deathwalker was running earlier today, and he was absolutely running the map early on. There is a fall-off point, and when you're up against crit, more than likely, that's when you're going to find that fall-off point, but for now, Julio's going to own lane. That's exactly what this item does. You're still plenty tanky with the phalanx, and then once you get to a carry, you start chopping away. So that's the idea here. It's not as if fineokay doesn't have that same level of damage once that Vital Amplifier gets procced. It just takes a bit longer, right? You need that heal to stack up a bit. With that being said, this beacon has been juggled back and forth for quite some time.
Neither team ready and willing to commit here. Johnny hanging in the wings, as is Adapting. Both the hunters just farming up, and it looks like these supports are having a staring contest. And Cozyx has won this. We should mark that. I think Cozyx has won the staring contest.
It's a little bit unfair. He used Cozyx Jr. just to poke out, but look at the damage Spudio has to beads. And rightfully so. That was plenty of DPS. PandaCat just pitch perfect playing with his power spikes. Look at that. He has dominance. Spudio doesn't. Yeah, I'm going to go all in. Why not? Now the beads are down, and there's another opportunity, adapting on the left side of the map. It really is like a flowing river. A relic goes down, and then the jungler spends the next 2 minutes on that side of the map. But look at this teleport frog, Oni Fury, spawning in.
Yeah, that's got to be the go button there. Beads, Hunter not here to fight for it. And Oni Fury knocked down for the Atlantis Leviathans. They are on time, and they pull off a heist there. Nobody able to step in for the objective. And still, I mean, you get all of the advantage of taking the beads off of Spudio, and adapting still has plenty of time on that relic to come back to the dual lane and take advantage of it.
What I'm more shocked in is the fact that Hex Mambo just farmed so well that Gold Fury doesn't matter, right? As far as I'm concerned, it keeps the gold even, but they were able to farm up so well. fineokay on the Pyromancer, starting it up. Julio, Dzoni, Rapio nearby, but it's going down quick.
They know it's here, no secure available, but the Leviathans, they're there before Mambo can respond. They take the Pyromancer. Got to be careful of a fight after the fact, though. Into the ultimate for fineokay, but the Osiris follows it up. First blood for Hex Mambo, and Ronngyu's under some pressure as well. A double kill for the mid laner, but look for the answer back. Adapting with the blink and finds the soul laner to at least put one on the board for the Levi's.
Yeah, they needed to find a kill there. That was looking a bit grim. Hex Mambo knew they could step forward, and they get plenty of damage down, but Spudio didn't make that rotation. He stayed over and left and gets the tier 1 tower as well, making it, I would say, a handed win for Hex Mambo. As far as I'm concerned, once the runic bomb gets used, that's when things get a bit different. fineokay could just use that bomb to steal a fire giant, and then you're like, oh wait, we're much happier that we got the pyro. But as of now, on paper, Hex Mambo is fine with that. The one question mark I had was when Julio beads. That became very clear to me why it happened. He said, we're going in. This was not a beads to just retreat. This was an aggressive beads. I want tether, I want Lord of the Afterlife, and I need to close gap to do that.
And that's the first instance of fighting that we see. And it goes towards Hex Mambo. Perhaps the Leviathans maybe getting caught too focused on the macro
damage numbers? Oh man, Julio's done double anyone on the map.
He's just boxing away over there on the right-hand side. That's fake damage, though, right? That's soul lane.
I saw some real damage on the dive there. I don't know what you're talking about. That actually really does pay dividends, man. You get close to Osiris, you expect the sickle, you expect a little bit of like ability damage, but those autos will sneak up on you, and Julio has proven that.
Well, I mean, this was something that was banned in game number 1. They took away the Osiris, the Daji, I believe, was banned as well. And because they took away the picks from Spudio and Rapio, it's now the preferred picks in the top half of the draft. I mean, what does this backline dive look like for Hex Mambo? You just have infinite space in Osiris, and Dzoni gets to just run the map?
Well, the benefit, of course, is that Leviathan took away that Hachi, right? Spudio was very hard to kill last game, and in this case, the Rama does not have that same level of safety. You can go up into the sky, but you're going to come back down. Hachi rides away on the horse, he's not coming back, right? He just gets to go as far away as possible, so I can see the disconnect there. But I was alluding to it all last game. Didn't end up being that end-all, be-all pick, but I'm still looking towards Sheento, man. He's been pretty on point. The one ult that was close, that can happen again, right? There is plenty of DPS for a level 17 Thoth, and that is what he's looking for. Look at this, though. PandaCat walks up. He's got both relics. He has ultimate, but actually goes for third item Odysseus bow.
Wow.
Put some damage on the back burner for more attack speed, sure. I mean, with Golden Blade and Odin, you're going to destroy waves. Like, they will get chunked, but everyone else doesn't care too much.
I mean, it looks like he's going to that next item, Executioner or Kins, but my focus that it's not crit.
Yep.
I thought it would be crit to maybe help out with the shred here as the macro play coming through for the Leviathans.
You and me both.
I mean, perhaps a different mindset here for how they're looking to play this one. And if you're Hex Mambo, I think you're not necessarily focused on that macro game. I think you're focused on the fights. And just like around that Pyromancer, I think Mambo are just happy to wait until 30 minutes before they ever consider starting a fight on their own. Past that, they might just consider looking for counter engages.
PandaCat is here, Frog. There's only one reason you send the ADC to this side of the map. Yeah, they're going to start this one up.
17 minutes. This is dangerous. And Hex Mambo are here. Frenzy popped. It's a 50-50 on the Fire Giant, but the Leviathans, they secure it with the final judgment.
Panda's gone.
But Dzoni is looking for Sheento. Panda's gone as well. fineokay getting chased down by 4 members, and they'll get pulled back in, potentially all behind his own wall. They'll find 3 in trade for the Fire Giant.
Frog, that did not seem like a play that needed to happen. The Leviathans were not so far down they had to sneak an FG. If anything, they were even, right? But now you get the Fire Giant on adapting and Ronngyu, but you're going to lose your tier 2 tower. Mambo heading over towards Primal Fury, and adapting's just looking for an opening. Can he find anything? No, why would he? But hold that thought, they're splitting. This could be an opening. Spudio doesn't know this is happening, and there's a blink available.
Might be a 2v2 here, adapting on the blink in beats from Spudio, but a great feather step stops the aggression, and he gets the kill before Spudio goes up into the air. Cozyx, he's got to be careful on that side. They'll at least take down the Pyromancer, but adapting shuts down the Gold Fury.
Frog, there's no reason to split up there. Like, not a single one. A Hex Mambo could have went to Primal together and then went in together. Rapio!
Rapio!
Taking so much. What is happening?
He's up out of position, and adapting is on a killing spree. And you thought this Fire Giant might not be worth it, but you give it to the King, and he gets 2 kills. They've now got the pressure.
These are some nervous jitters. That's got to be what it is. Hex Mambo realized they had a massive opportunity to put the Leviathans down, and then they just make 2 back-to-back misplays. No reason to split there and go for Primal and Oni or Pyro like simultaneously. They could have grouped up. And then Rapio just getting 100-0'd by the King before he even had a chance to use that Aegis. Ridiculous. Leviathan said, okay, that was our bad. Fire Giant, not a great call. Now we got to dial it back.
And they didn't pick up the Runic Bomb, Trelly. They got the Pyromancer, they got the experience from it, but they're not going to get the benefit of that. I mean, all of the fight after the fact, all of the Fire Giant potential there from the Leviathans, maybe a little bit short-sighted. I think I'm on the same page as you. I don't know that you need to go for that play, but it sure doesn't hurt when you end up with what you wanted. You wanted some pressure, you wanted to get the Gold Fury on the map, you wanted a couple more kills on your jungler, and sure enough, the Leviathans now have evened up the game, and maybe they're in control to push down some of these tier 1 towers.
I wouldn't hate it at this point. Rongyu's got plenty to sustain with that Fire Giant buff, and adapting has shown that he can absolutely delete someone if given the opportunity. Remember, Spudio used both relics and still fell down in that last engagement. And Ronngyu, he's got the engage, right? That wall is all it takes to start a fight. So I've got my eyes on the Ymir. 1 wall could start this out, and Cozyx actually blinks forward. He wants to get aggressive.
Ultimate early, forces the ultimate back from PandaCat, but the damage still not there as a follow-up, unless it's on a fineokay. And Dzoni finds the damage, trades out a little bit with the Soul Laner. You can see how Hex Mambo are focused on defending even the smallest of objective points. That was a tier 1 tower that you get a couple of ultimates, the blink in from Cozyx there just to make sure that they can defend that one. But I mean, I suppose if you're confident in how your fight's going to go, the Levi's appropriately, they've got to back off.
Yeah, at that point, you try to pull the beads from Panda. He's smart, just uses that ultimate instead. They're able to back up. But you're right, Cozyx was trying to create an opening and make sure that tier 1 tower does not go down. I promise that gold might not be the biggest difference, but if you get a relic during that defense, ends up being worth it. Remember, the Leviathans were the ones that pulled that FG aggressively. They rotate PandaCat immediately. Spudio was nowhere to be seen. So just keep your eyes on these objectives, right? Get the ward coverage down. Because not only do they have the Bracer, they have the Frenzy in the pocket of fineokay. They have the Ama passive with the Shoguns. Objectives do not stand a chance if they get everyone together.
It was around 22 minutes that both these teams started to group up around the objective last time around. And even around the 17-minute Fire Giant, I mean, I called it a coin flip, but it's really not, right? They have the final judgment in the back pocket, and if you're failing to delete somebody with it, we saw Sheento use that out countless times very early in the fights in game number 1. Maybe you're just not happy with that. Instead of taking the chance to delete somebody, you secure one of these objectives, but if anything, that gives Hex Mambo almost a blueprint of how they want to get ready for this next fight. They're not necessarily even worried about getting the Fire Giant themselves. They just want to come away with more kills.
And remember, it's not as if Final Judgment is the easiest confirmation. It can be interrupted a ton by the side of the Hex Mambo, rather. I mean, Cozyx gets to the backline. Watery Grave's going to do it 5 times over. You have to watch that positioning to make sure you get it off. Finally, though, we see that Odibo actually paying dividend. PandaCat getting plenty of poke and DPSing that Pyromancer. They're going to grab that one, no problem. Still, I think you're right, Frog. This is going to be another slow Fire Giant dance where neither team wants to go in for the pull. The benefit, of course, is that the Leviathans have actual DPS towards that objective with PandaCat and that confirmation with a Runic Bomb from Ronngyu, Shards of Ice, and of course Sheento's ultimate.
I'm taking a look at some of the builds, Trelly, and we've got some.
Here we go.
I won't even get a chance.
You don't get a chance.
The teleport from fineokay, and they're at it again. Fire Giant focus down, and Cozyx doesn't wait at all. He's in onto PandaCat. Aegis gets forced, as does Beats. The snipes hit through. It might be
Is he dead?
Kuzenbo, and Julio finishes it off. Now the tanks in the back line. Final Judgment just barely doesn't get Cozyx, but they're making it out on no HP. fineokay, the hero, will take down Julio, but Ronngyu falls as well. The dual lane down for the Leviathans. And fineokay, he's running the wrong way.
I mean, at this point, Dzoni could have caught fineokay, tried to find Sheento instead. He's about to go on a merry little chase to catch up to Amaterasu. This should be the DPS. fineokay just stalling to see if Adaptive can get close, but Dzoni on a killing spree is gonna pick that one up.
The turnaround from the body.
Oh, hold up.
You gotta be careful. Blink available, but the immediate turnaround, and Dzoni is ready for it. He gets the beads,
They're not done.
and he's ready to fight. He's looking for the 1v1, and he doesn't get it. Sheento over the wall helps out the jungler, and
But
they're
now
able to
Sheento.
take down Dzoni, but you gotta be careful here. Both relics down now for Sheento, and somehow they both survive.
I cannot believe Adapting survived. Sheento took the fire for him, even if those relics didn't come through. Sheento had that alternate timeline, but it would have been fantastic to get down before the Fire Giant siege begins. Leviathans have everyone but Fino. Teleport up in 40, so he can't join the fight just yet. And Hex Mambo, I think they're gonna exhale, just relax for a minute. That was close to being a Fire Giant winning play, but if you can't kill Sheento and you can't kill Adapting, you gotta go back to the drawing board.
Can I exhale? Can we relax?
Oh, we can chill.
Because
I
there's-
lied.
that
They
was
might
a
go
lot.
in right now.
PandaCat, Ronngyu, Adapting, all grouped up.
They need their
around
mobile
this
shoguns
objective. They need fineokay to rejoin the fight. He's got that movement speed aura though, and they're not wasting any time at all. Fire Giant once again picked up. Once again, Cozyx into the ultimate, and it's the chase down from Mambo. Spudio into the air, needs to hit all three, and is off the mark with 2. But at least they forced them off the objective.
And remember, Dzoni was not here for that engagement. That's why the Leviathans went in for the pull, and there won't be any more engagement. Titans have been unleashed, heading up the right side of the map. I'm gonna do a relic roundup. Dzoni, nothing to his name. Would love that blink, would love that beads, not gonna be up for at least 80 seconds. And then look at the Leviathans. It's a graveyard. Sheento's got nothing. There's no way he wants to fight anywhere near Dzoni for the next 80 seconds or so. And Adapting, he doesn't have those beads as well. This is very dangerous territory for the Leviathans. I think they go for a soft defense here at best, but if Hex Mambo can find their in, they could find a big engagement on the right side of the map.
Got these Titans pushing down the right-hand side, and Hex Mambo, they've got the man advantage, Adapting over in mid. PandaCat a little bit late to this push. But so far, they'll slow things down, and maybe, I mean, Leviathans have to reevaluate this strategy, it feels like. Yes, they got the first Fire Giant, and some benefits come from that, to be sure. Julio maybe getting poked out a little bit. But around this, I mean, they've tried it now 2 or 3 times since then. If you're the Leviathans, this was your one strategy. How do you adapt? What's the next type of play that you're trying to make here?
I mean, at the moment, you're stalling for 2 relics, and now it looks like you're not going to stall much longer. fineokay taking a lot of damage.
Body blocked around the wall. The blink in from Dzoni. He needs to hit one more bit of damage, and he'll pull back in. fineokay
no
follow-up. Just a little bit, and he will find it with the bleed.
Oh,
But they've overstayed. Adapting takes down Dzoni. Julio answers back, but Rapio is there to fall a 2 for 2, and the Leviathans on the chase down the right side. Cozyx with the blink in. He'll sacrifice himself, but he doesn't even need to. Spudio taken down. PandaCat finds Cozyx. It's a 4-man killing spree for Leviathan.
But the Leviathans have to go back to base. They did not have the HP to step forward, and now it's time for Julio to go in for the... This man's just soloing Pyromancer.
He's just
Sheento
chilling, man.
is still nearby. It looks like he's just going to go for his red buff in the meantime, but Frog, they're going to have an opening. Dzoni up in 18 seconds. I think the Leviathans will go in for a pull. All the while, Julio, you got to know someone's going to step up at some point, right?
this, what, nobody...
He's got to hear this.
They're focused on the Fire Giant. He's just there for the Pyromancer. If he gets this, he'll have a steel tool.
Right, but he drops
it's not even there. He drops it. And it's the Fire Giant. That's the focus. They have Final Judgment available. This is weighted for the Leviathans, but you got to be careful. Julio is around and could look for it, but he has to disengage. And the Leviathans, they win a fight, and they get FG on 5.
Exactly. Now, fine for the Leviathans to step up and get their push. They'll grab another Runic Bomb, 2 in pocket, 1 for Fino and 1 for Ronngyu. They've got Fire Giant on all 5, and they get to play this one slow. There is plenty of real estate on the map, Frog. Tier 1, right and mid. All 3 Tier 2 towers, plus the Oni Fury has spawned in. That is a lot of gold the Leviathans want to put in their pockets. Hex Mambo have to make a choice. Will they step forward? Will they engage and try and defend at these Tier 2s? Or do they just step back and say, hey, it's not Enhanced Fire Giant yet. We are going to keep the birds alive, and that's about it. Given the grouping, it seems like they might go in for a defense of this Tier 2 on left.
Hex Mambo have been in this spot before. In fact, they were in this spot trying to qualify for this tournament up against the Gladiators. They're able to hold on through these Phoenix Sieges, through these sieges to come back into the game from a spot just like this. The Leviathans, I mean, this is a 5,000 gold lead. This is a Fire Giant. These are objectives in your back pocket. But at this point, I mean, the build spikes are getting close to completed. We've got upgraded starters. We've got level 20s across the board, except for Cozyx, who's conveniently going into a pen item. He wants to kill PandaCat, I think is
you want
really what it is.
You want to see the difference numbers between Cozyx and Ronngyu? It'll show you exactly where that damage is at. 2,000 to 13,000. That is Thorns, Pridwin, Stone of Binding procs all over, specifically just the Ishtar. PandaCat has been 1v1ing a turtle for the whole game.
Dude, Cozyx, he's just ready to get in there, man. And it looks like
that's
you
him,
said,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby.
The flex for us.
Cozyx ready to get involved here in the entirety of Hex Mambo, ready, looking to defend this Tier 2 tower. Just a regular Fire Giant here, so these backdoor protections, additional power won't be there just yet, but a good wall forces the ultimate from Rapio, and everybody has to back off. That's a wall for ultimate trade. That's a win for the Levi's.
That is a big win, and it's not like anyone got poked out too bad. Ronngyu said, I've got Fire Giant. I'm going to heal that up, no problem, and now you've lost Home Sweet Home. Going to be scary trying to defend this one. I think Mambo should back up, but they're going in instead.
Look at Dzoni, though. Cozyx in with the ultimate. Julio follows. Frenzy gets popped on the other side, though.
Dzoni's gone!
Dzoni is gone! Julio is gone off the face of the map, and one more to do it. Cozyx on a killing spree for Sheento as the Tier 2 tower will fall. They're going to keep pushing here.
Why not? Why not? The end call should be exactly what's on the Leviathan's mind. You got Rapio and Spudio, no ultimates available, and a Titan. Yeah, Leviathan should feel real confident.
Runic Bomb takes down the Phoenix, a 5 versus 2 advantage here. And the Leviathan's looking to fight back. The Titan falling low, Rapio falls, and the Leviathans push us to a game 3.
One of the more puzzling engages I've ever seen, Frog. I do not know why losing that ultimate meant this is a good engage, let's blink forward. But Hex Mambo, they saw Johnny's wraparound, and I didn't see Johnny get a lick of damage off in that fight. He died on impact.
Johnny literally pressed the 3 button, and then I think he didn't get to play the game. I think that was the impact there from the Daji, and perhaps that you get the adaptation that you wanted from the Levi's, but sort of in a weird way. I almost wasn't the most pleased with their Fire Giant pulls, but maybe 2 bad fights from Hex Mambo. Once around the Fire Giant where they lose the 4v2 and then that engage at the end. I mean, if you're Hex Mambo, I'm not sure it's a draft thing. You just got to clean up some of those fights.
That's the big difference as far as I'm concerned. There were some missed opportunities. Again, getting that ultimate forced was not the go button. That was the, okay, we give up Tier 2 button, but instead they blink forward, and there was just plenty of damage. Leviathans played that fight just leagues better, and it becomes a little bit of an overextension. But Hex Mambo have a chance to go back to the drawing board. This is a best of 3 finally on today, and they can try and redraw exactly what went wrong.
Our first game number 3 of World Season X. Stick around after the break.
Seen the light in the dark, but it's been a while. Just remember, it's the heat from the heart beating next the mind. But I surrender, 'cause everything I touch seems to crumble, and everyone I love leaves me broken down. Everybody runs when they see me now. So I put my hands up in the sky, revel in the storm clouds as they pass me by. Now there's no escape, I realize I'm death in the land of the living. Still all the energy when we get connected. Your good is done when you have my full attention. I'll take you away into a dark dimension, and you can't get out. I never thought I'd be like this. Further down into the deep abyss I'll go. Stay off my radar 'cause I never miss. Yeah, everybody knows. So I put my hands up in the sky, revel in the storm clouds as they pass me by. Now there's no escape, I realize I'm dead in the land of the living. Put my hands up in the sky, revel in the storm clouds as they pass
Not a single 3-game quarterfinal last year. This year, however, we get one in our third. Still a chance for a second one a bit later on today. You just saw it. Thanks to our tech partners rally here. They're powering SMITE and powering us here on broadcast this year. A lot of great things there on our back end. Thanks to Rally here for being with us, not only in SMITE, but here on broadcast. Fellas, I want to break down game 2 of 3 now confirmed. Finally, we get a 3-game quarterfinal. Hazer inbound, Mifflin with me. We were a little tense coming out of Picks and Bans, Hazer. Hex Mambo felt like they might have a good draft. They did have a good draft, but the Leviathans made it work.
Absolutely. The Levi's were incredible in that game at what I like to call ripping it. They just went to the objective and they called they were going to do it, and they did it. Sometimes I don't think the calls were that good, but it's really impressive for them to be that confident in their comp and able to execute. At this level, at this pressure, they were still able to go to those fights and just all in, no holding back, commit on a decision. Sometimes if you commit hard enough to a bad call, it can kind of become a good call, you know?
Game 3 will be an amazing moment in and of itself, but game 2 had some great moments, of course, brought to you by your Steel Series Moments of Glory. Miff, talk to me about what you saw here in game 2 from the Leviathans.
I saw a lot of Sheento's ultimates hitting a lot of damage and a lot too many people, right? I mean, there was 2 3-man ultimates. It felt like there were fights. Hex Mambo were just winning out handily, and then all of a sudden, Sheento from downtown said, you actually were never in contention. It looked phenomenal. There was the one moment that I think everyone in the crowd was waiting for, the Dzoni versus adapting 1v1 on left side jungle, and it comes down to sub 100 HP separating the two of them, but top to bottom, I think you really got to shout out the Leviathans and their ability, as Hazer said, to play around those neutral objectives. So many of them just in the face of Mambo.
I also think a lot of it was adapting on this Awilix game 2 versus game 1. It was like night and day. He had all the setup in the world game 1. Didn't really make great use of it, pulled relics maybe here or there. This game, he was getting involved, taking these 1v1s. His team fight presence was a lot stronger. His positioning seemed a lot healthier for the state of the game that they were in. And he was part of the reason that this game was able to be extended a lot farther. I mean, 6-1 and 5, a lot of it was on his potential in the 1v1s. Obviously, you're talking about the 1v1 with Dzoni. Even if Sheento was there, able to clean up a little bit of it. But a lot of it, I think, comes down to how adapting play these team fights. And I think a lot of it is on him.
Really happy for the first time we get to finally talk about my favorite thing, momentum, Hazer. For the first time, it kind of matters. Going into game 3, the Leviathans kind of run over the Mambo in the back half of game 2 there. Does momentum lie firmly with the Leviathans?
I think it does, but I think what the Mambo have to be saying, what Coach Davey has to be saying to those guys is, you guys had that. There was the FG fight, which they got the win in. They kind of split off, 2 over to Gold Fury, 2 over to Pyro, and then they got punished hard. They were in the driver's seat in this game. They just need to tidy up one small mistake, and they'll be fine. I think that's the mantra they have to be repeating to themselves. You know, they didn't beat us, we beat ourselves, we'll beat them next time.
Coach Davey up on stage with his players, walking through picks and bans for game number 3. Again, 0 game 3s last year. We get one here. The Leviathans and the Mambo go toe-to-toe. Remember, this is a 3-game set. The winner moves on to the semifinals. The loser goes home. Weight couldn't possibly be higher between these two teams. Miff, what are you hoping to see here early in the pick ban phase?
I don't want Mambo to give up that Thoth again. Immediately my mind goes towards that. I think with what we had seen in game 1, hold on, let me put a stipend on it.
Okay.
You can give up the Thoth if you can get the Raijin for yourself. Otherwise, get rid of the Thoth if you think Raijin's the insta counter back. So besides that, I think you can allow the Awilix through, considering how well Hex Mambo handled it in game 1. We've seen that Dzoni has some matchups that can play into that. So I'm really keeping my eyes on that mid lane.
It was Sheento, right, a while ago
Crazy.
that had a ridiculous win rate on Raijin. I don't know if it was a year or 2 ago, but both left open yet again. So immediately a question becomes here inbound. What can Hex Mambo do differently this game to deal with this Thoth?
I mean, I think the Thoth, for the most part, was dealt with how it needed to be dealt with. It's just the problem when you have such a phenomenal player like Sheento on this Thoth and you get to that late game. He's going to hit an ult eventually. Fortunately for that last game, he hit a lot of ults. As Miff said, he was the one executing a lot, getting a lot of damage, returning a lot as his team was maybe scuffling a little bit. And the downside to it is they had a really good comp into the Thoth too. I liked what they had, but he was still just able to get so much damage out, and that's kind of why Mifflin probably wanted Sheento kind of off this Thoth because of just how much potential he has on it. Fortunately, they still get these two really strong characters, the Baba, the Osiris. I kind of echo what Mifflin says where, I don't know if I love the Baba into Thoth that much. She goes into the house, she's kind of obvious to hit, she can't Aegis, so it's a little difficult, but I don't hate it.
We're seeing our first 2 switch-ups of this draft. We're going back-to-back from the last one. The bans were exactly the same. The first 3 picks were the same, even the 4th, the Awilix, but the Nike comes through this time. fineokay wants to pick that up early, and the Ganesh on the other side. I actually really like this switch-up from Cozy. Ganesh, a god that I think is super, super strong in the meta, and in particular into Awilix, kind of disrupts a lot of what Awilix wants to do on the backside, and also, obviously, that own Ganesh's second ability has knock-up immunity on it, making him pretty safe.
Also plays relatively well into the Thoth. You can catch him out. Even with Evade and Punish, he's going to get hit by that slow as well, some of the defense shred, or you can prevent the final judgment as well. You know, you're securing a Fire Giant, you're securing a Gold Fury. The dude screams. He screams, he starts throwing up his hands, and you can just walk up. And Dave, what was it that you always like to say with Ganesh?
You can't speak, you can't speak.
And when you can't speak, you can't cast spells, so good luck to Thoth securing objectives.
One thing we've been following along with, Myth, and the rest of my friends up here on the desk, PandaCat's picks. Because think about game 1, into game 2, you get an Ishtar, looks a little bit better. Already an on-her ban from Hex Mambo. Inbound, do you want to see another ADC ban here, or do you think the Leviathans will be fine either way?
I mean, Hazer said it in that second P's and B's. The Rama with Thoth is such a power-like combo together. They're leaving it open. They're allowing him to go back to that Rama. But Panda just hasn't gone for it. He's been going for the Ishtar. He went for it in game 1. He went for the Ullr. The Rama is something that's very viable and actually a phenomenal pick for this Levi's. That's what I want to see them go for.
Yeah, I'm actually going to expect an Ishtar takeaway here by Mambo in the 4th slot. There it comes. They're going to take that away from Panda, deny what he had last time out. That's why I think they opted to ban the Hein. And I think they're quite happy for PandaCat to go towards this Ram. I'm not sure what their counter is. Maybe they think the Ganesh has a good matchup, able to catch that roll sometimes. But it seems that they're happy for PandaCat to go towards that Ram.
PandaCat does have a few other picks there. Could avoid the Rom, could play something. I mean, we've seen it just once earlier, but Danza Burrow has always been a pocket pick for him.
Put that one back in the pocket.
I mean, I know it didn't look great, but on an all-in composition, you want to join the dive with Nike and Awilix. I could see a world where maybe PandaCat's up there. Yeah, big Danza fan and Dave.
And that's all we're pick banning for here, are the gods that I like, right?
Thanks for backing me up, man.
So you're not entirely sold that it has to be a Rom here, but do you still like the Rom the most of what's left?
Oh yeah, for sure. But he played Ullr earlier, so I feel like I gotta get the weird picks out of the way.
Okay, understood. So you're still looking for a little bit here if you're Hex Mambo inbound. What gaps do you think there's still left to fill for the Hex Mambo draft?
What Johnny needs to fill out with this comp is something that can just kind of clean up fights. I think what the Mambo have already, Ganesh for nice little engage, Osiris for nice dive, their backline plays really nice. I just don't know exactly what Johnny wants to find in something like this. The Thor's available, the Rat's available, something that can kind of chase down and go all in. My only problem is though, we've seen this Rat, it's not succeeded very well.
Uh-oh.
No.
All right,
Hazer, I know you feel strongly about
dreadful.
this.
This is dreadful.
Tell us what you're thinking, Hazer.
Oh, they're rowing it down, man. The boat boy gets locked in. I was thinking maybe
With the
Ronngyu is
Ullr,
going to be the one to do it.
All right.
I thoroughly dislike this duo lane.
I was gonna say, are you 50% on the dual lane? Are you 100% in on the Charon and 0 on the Ullr? Do you land somewhere in the middle on both? But you said you thoroughly dislike it.
I dislike
a scathing
both.
indictment.
I really dislike both. I feel like Charon is a god in comp who does fake things, doesn't really deliver a whole lot in 5v5s at Fire. And Ullr, we saw, had the drawbacks of that character in game 1.
And the Mambo finishing this comp out with the Susano, who is going to deal with the Susano when it comes to this late game? There is really nobody that's going to be able to take that and not get kind of messed with, because if it's Thoth, he's going to one-shot him, chase him down. If it's Ullr, it's very hard to play Ullr into the Susano matchup. And what is Charon going to do when they're getting gone on? Hazer, he doesn't peel. That's not what the god does. Nope. He trades abilities somewhat well in 5v5s, but outside of that, what is he really going to do when the Susano's diving?
Bobby, I need you to dig deep as resident support player on this desk. What is it that attracts them to the Charon here? What is it that really screams we need him?
I know exactly what it is, and Hazer can echo it. It's the damage. Your damage number's through the roof. You look like you're doing so much.
It's gotta be the damage. It's the
post-game
It's the damage.
It's
You do
never
so
your
much.
fault. It's never your fault you lost.
I'm
Look at
doing
my
damage.
damage numbers. I was cracked.
I'm good.
Now, going into
Stat
game
pattern.
2, there were similar conversations being had by us. We were feeling like Mambo had the better draft. Are we having the same conversation now, Myth? Are we thinking Mambo have the better draft going into game 3?
I put a lot of weight on the Thoth and the Awilix. I think the Atlantis Leviathans with those 2 picks could do just about no wrong with the rest of them, but I think they've come very closely to doing wrong here, at least in the duo lane. I love Hex Mambo's duo. I think that the support matchup is really good here for them as well. Osiris has been dominating. If we're talking just compositions, I kind of favor Mambo.
Inbound, same vibes?
I have to echo a little bit what Myth is saying with this Thoth. The potential for Sheento to just all-out carry a fight with just one final judgment cannot be understated. You gotta always kind of talk about that. And then the Awilix. Adapting played a phenomenal game last game, and it wasn't an easy Awilix game, so there's always potential there. It's just...
He's waffling.
I hate saying it about Myth, where it's like,
He's waffling.
ease of access with these comps, how much easier is the Mambo comp? It's a little bit easier. I gotta say the Mambo comp is favored for me.
The question is, Hazer, what kind of pace of game are you expecting? This is a knockout game 3. Are we chilling? Are we going late game, or are we getting after it right off the bat?
I don't think the Leviathans are able to chill now. They went so hard that game. They were so pedal to the metal, and I think they're going to continue that momentum on this one, and I think they have to win with this comp. And, you know, maybe we're casters cursing it on the desk. I feel like maybe because we hate this comp so much, they might do it.
They just might. A winner-take-all game number 3. Leviathans and Mambo, and the casters will take it from here.
Game number 3. We've got our sleeves rolled up, man. This is do or die. And I got to get the crowd involved. Who among us thinks the Atlantis Leviathans are going to semis? And who thinks the SCC squad, the Mambo, are going to semis? Well, I don't know if you heard that, Trelly. That was pretty Mambo favored.
I didn't want anyone to feel left out, so I clapped for both of them.
Oh.
I'm just a nice guy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm sure they do as well. We're into game 3 here, though. You got Frog, you've got Trelly. I'm looking for the poll because it went from 25% favored towards the number 2 seed to 1%.
Wow.
They've gotten a little bit back, man, but I think people have started to realize this whole Hex Mambo hype thing is pretty real.
It is definitely real. But something that I talk about a whole lot is ease of engage late game. And something that I harp on a lot is how Charon does not bring that, right? You don't hit the silence and say, oh, we're going in, right? It's for poke, and then it's for lockdown. The River of Styx is the slowest moving ability in SMITE, right? It is not a great engage either. It's more so you throw it in the middle of a team fight after fineokay has engaged, right? You want fineokay going in first, and then Ronngyu sends in that damage. With that, Adapting has been able to create his own space, right? Last game, I was very impressed. The Awilix changed up the late game play. He found some isolated picks. He found some 1v1s in the jungle. I think he's gonna have to do that again. And with Dzoni being on the Susano, I think that might have to be his target.
There's a lot to talk about with these composition changes, and I think you landed on where I wanted to go. This Susano for Dzoni. We've seen the development of Dzoni across the seasons of SMITE. First, he was playing hyper carry gods like Alkwang and Kali. This season, he's played a lot of Awilix, a lot of Camazotz, bit of Thor, right? Ronngyu get poked out a little bit, but I can't recall seeing too much of this Susano from him, but I think it fits the draft pretty well.
I've seen it from just about everyone else to know that it's good, right? Like, you know, I think we've all been on the mean end of a Susano combo. That Typhoon can absolutely change a team fight, so I'm not mad at it one bit. In fact, it's one of the picks you go to when you want to try and carry a game, right? If you get a little bit of a lead, which Dzoni has been apt to do. Adapting got the lead game 1, Dzoni got the lead game 2. If you get a little bit of a lead in the jungle, the movement, the ease of clear, the 100-0 potential can skyrocket. So keep your eyes on the first blue buff spawn. That's where I put us to last time. That same ability is here as well.
A little bit of a scuffle here. Adapting and Dzoni questioning over those side camps. Is Dzoni maybe sneaking up onto this, though? Picked all 3 games, by the way. Sheento, oh my goodness, Julio on the right-hand side. That's the early pressure we needed from Adapting.
Yep, that's that Blink Awilix combo early on. Like I said, it's usually head left, head right, but Adapting head right very quickly. And of course, Julio falls down. No survivability relic, forced to use the teleport, and first blood goes to fineokay. That's going to be a big deal. What did I talk about earlier? Who's going to be the engage? It's not going to be Ronngyu. It's going to be fineokay. Getting him first blood and making him the tankiest guy on the map, that's step one, and Leviathans have already put him in a great spot to do so.
We saw Nike in game number 1 lead the Hex Mambo team to a win. And then they've gone since then. This Osiris has been unbanned, and Julio has opted for this pick over the Nike. I mean, do you think this pick gives fineokay a little bit of a pressure advantage?
I mean, what Nike does fantastic right now in this meta is poke you out of lane, right? Warrior's Axe from a distance, almost no character in the meta can outrange her, and she just spams, right? You just want to rend consistently and get your HP low, and then your jungler says, oh, you got Julio half health. Yeah, I'm gonna blink in. I'm gonna go in for 100 to 0. And that's exactly how this starts. Now fineokay is gonna get a little bit tankier, a little bit quicker, right? He can continue that poke train, he can continue that dive, and heck, he could upgrade teleport and start rotating. Not necessarily now, but eventually. That's what that first blood brings. So I like it a lot. Julio on the Osiris is also solid, but falling down early, that makes your job a little bit more difficult.
fineokay now with the pressure to potentially push this lead, but happy to see Dzoni over there making sure that that blue buff does not get invaded early on, making sure that can push that lead a little bit further. And now my eyes start to go towards the other side lane. We saw these junglers a lot in the mid game over towards this dual lane, and I don't know if you could sense maybe some like passive aggressiveness on the desk. They didn't really like it was kind of hidden.
You think so?
It was kind of hidden. They weren't huge fans of the
Hazer and like Myth and like Bobby, like all of them.
Right, like all of them.
Yeah, they weren't a big fan of the duo lane. And I will say, like I said earlier on, this is the same repeat on this Ullr. There's no difference for me. It's gonna fall off when it comes to objectives. That's not what you're picking for. PandaCat wants to fight. He wants to 1v1. He wants to find abilities, and he wants to just be dominant on this pickup. It's not gonna bring much else to the table, right? That is exactly what you grab the Ullr for. As far as the Charon, I disagree about the damage numbers. I think these supports are picking it because you can play so far up. Charon can get across the map with that dash, right? You can be so aggressive and still get out of trouble. You're not out of position if you're on the front line because your dash is going to get you out. It's good setup, it's good DPS, but you can play as far up as you want on Charon because you have so many ways to get out of trouble.
You don't think it's because he's in a boat?
Well, that helps.
And that rowing animation is pretty cool to look at.
I agree with you, but you know, when World is on the line, you got to go for more than aesthetic.
You're probably considering a more than aesthetics, although we should rate the players on skins at some point. Maybe not right now, though, as we talk about this early game, because I mean, after this first blood, I almost expected Adapting to maybe be the one at that blue buff, but he didn't even try invading on that first spawn. How does this jungle 1v1 go early in the game? Does Awilix still have the advantage?
As far as I'm concerned, it's whoever gets the damage first, right?
Whoa!
Oh, look at that, Adapting blinks the pull, Dzoni. He's got to get out of here. He does not want to take that engagement. If anything, Ronngyu send it in the wave.
Forced to use the beads, and Sheento with the follow-up finds the ultimate in the last hit onto Dzoni, and it's right as that blue buff spawns. You guessed it, 3 over here in time for the invade. And they are focused on getting fineokay ahead.
You see that chuckle? That was a VEL from Sheento, and for good reason. Caught him out. And that was something. Dzoni thought he was being sneaky there. Adapting immediately blinked out. And once you get that Awilix passive online, that's when you leave, right? Dzoni said, okay, I am no longer favored in this engagement. I'm going to get out of here as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, I stood corrected about the beginning. You can send out that ultimate if Johnny's in the jungle, right? That covers the whole lane, essentially. And once he got sent back in, Sheento could not miss and shows exactly how much range this Thoth pick can offer.
Always feels really good to barrel stuff somebody with that final jump.
Because you can't miss.
Right, hard to miss that one. And now with 2 kills in favor of the Leviathans, a little bit of a gold lead starting to amass, but we've been here before, Trelly. We got off to a 6-0 kill lead and a little bit of a gold lead in game number 1. I can't help but feel, though, this is a little bit different. This feels almost more calculated by Leviathan, something they can hold on to a little bit easier.
I tend to agree. This is not the same lead the Leviathans got in game 1, but their late game will still look similar, right? It is not as if PandaCat can just change up the god, right? He is still going to be on Ullr. Their Fire Giant still will struggle, but I think Sheento's played enough Thoth so far this set that he's going to be on point with those secures. And of course, Ronngyu, the wave, the river of sticks. If you get baited into a fire giant fight, you can chase down.
The dual lane is over here at green, and they're on to Cozyx. Dharmic Pillars get dropped, and Dzoni onto the mid laner. Sheento's got to be careful.
Why did he shut it?
Out of range. He charges the ultimate a little bit too long, and the wave headed towards mid lane for the rotation from fineokay, and Rapio falls down. The Levi's take another.
Man, I couldn't tell. Johnny's level 8, so he didn't have the second point of Typhoon. It really felt like he could have sent that out just for the damage. Level 9 ult, 100% kills. That was thin margins, though. Not going to land, and Sheento lives to see another day. I was questioning the changeup, though. Ronngyu had the River of Sticks, was sending it out, and now Julio is going to be in a bit of trouble. Has Lord of the Afterlife, needs to get away, but fineokay can chase this.
Adapting over the wall, has used the gravity surge and slows down the Osiris. Julio, another kill for fineokay, 3-0 for the Soul Lane.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. When Nike gets a small lead like this, you can make those clutch rotations, you get so tanky, and not to mention the damage. This Nike is absolutely chunking, and fineokay, he can do no wrong on the map currently. If you've got Sentinel of Zeus available, you've got 2 health bars, and he does not care about any sort of DPS on the side of Mambo.
So powerful from this Nike, and it's only going to become harder to kill. We saw it trying to deal with this Nike in game number 1. We saw Asunder come out from Ronngyu on the support. Looking over at the relics, it's still going to be 4 levels before Cozyx is able to build into that, if they even want to use that and try to deal with the fineokay. So, you know, my question comes to these mid-game fights around the gold free. fineokay already has this upgraded teleport to rotate to some of these fights. In fact, he picked the one that's going to be up more often.
Yeah, I prefer this one. The persistent teleport, I mean, great, dude. Heroic teleport's great when you want to teleport and fight immediately. But if you want to schedule your fight, say, hey guys, we're going to fight in a couple of seconds, I like the persistent just a little bit better for the reason that you were about to say. You can teleport essentially every fight, right?
Yeah.
If you get active, you can go in whenever you want.
Whoa, Spudio pulls out the ultimate early on, and PandaCat sits there, taunts just a little bit, making sure that Spudio knows. Sports, they've stuck over here a little bit longer than in game number 1, just making sure that these ADCs can farm up. You know, if we go back to this Ullr, we've talked about it a good bit, but with a chance to. PandaCat forced to jump away. Ronngyu in a little bit of trouble. I don't think they realize the rotation is here, and the wave hits onto 2. Spudio with the beads, and he's low. He might not make it out of here. PandaCat with the hail of arrows, and he's jumping in with fineokay. A 5-man rotation in 10 minutes, and Rapio is gone as well. The Levi's look unstoppable.
And it's all because of these rotations. fineokay is on every side of the map at once. All the while, Julio, he's pushing towers, man. He cannot match the rotation of this Nike, and Sheento hits a banger ultimate. I thought fineokay may be in danger of getting shut down. Yeah, Final Judgment took all of that doubt out of my mind as the Atlantis Leviathans grab the Gold Fury pre-10 minutes and give themselves a 5,000 gold lead. That's not only from just winning fights, that's from superior farming, that's from engage, and of course, that's from the gold.
Tough question now, Trelly, is on the mind of Hex Mambo. And it's, how do you start to deal with this? How do you start to try to fight back into this? They can stem the bleeding as much as they want to, but if you're getting 5-man rotated on at 9 minutes into the game, I mean, there's only so much stemming of the bleeding that you can do.
You stay calm. You don't overextend, and it's the same as game 1. I'm not saying that it's going to be as easy because of 7-0 and the Gold Fury dropping and 5,000, like all of that together, not fun. Not a great place to be if you're Hex Mambo. But you got to keep telling yourself, we already did this once, boys. We saw a similar composition through to late game, and we beat them there. That's exactly what you have to play for. Can you stay back? Can you just ignore the engages from adapting? Can you watch out for fineokay, who's going to be a 4-0 Nike rotating behind you pretty much every couple of minutes? Yeah, the question has not been answered yet, Brock. They are diving it back.
Yeah, they've got plenty of time to answer it, but the Levi's, they're thinking, we want to win this game sooner rather than later. We want to maybe match this 17-minute Gold Fury, or Fire Giant rather, getting pulled in game number 2. Granted, I mean, once we go back to this Ullr, it is not the strong objective composition. They've got the secure, But, I mean, that's where it maybe fell apart a little bit in game number 1. How do the Leviathans try to clean that up once they get to these stronger mid-game objectives?
I will say their objective bait is much cleaner here because Ronngyu can wait for someone to walk into the fire giant pit, can wait for someone to walk into the jungle and then send the wave out, right? That's going to send them back. This is going to be not a 50-50, not a weighted coin toss. This is going to be, we're baiting you in. We want you to fight us in the jungle. And that's what the Leviathans have been just absolutely owning at. Hasn't been too bad. Sheento, he can just send those out apparently because he's trying to just create some openings. Rapio, he's going to let that ult fly by. But unless the Pyromancer or the Gold Fury's up, you don't need Final Judgment.
Sheento is 3 levels ahead. We haven't come back to this, Thoth. I mean, he's picked it first slot all 3 games, and we've had some highlight plays on it. Good secures on Fire Giants, taking people down low, deleting members at times, but this is the most dominant it has looked thus far. 2.5 levels ahead here in the mid lane. And perhaps if you're Rapio, this is the god you played. Same matchup as we had last game. Has to be focused on getting a little bit more of this farm, but all the while, Sheento's using this lead to his advantage.
Well, this is the benefit of playing the same god 2 games in a row, 3 games in a row, right? You just like, hey, I know how to play the early, I know how to play the late, I know my power spikes, I know my damage numbers, and Sheento can just walk around the map and just send out DPS whenever he'd like, right? He has not changed the game plan since this set begun. Same with adapting, right? This Awilix has not been something he wants to get away from either. He knows his damage numbers. He's 0-0-6, a part of just about every single kill so far this set. And it hasn't been a problem, right? As long as they're able to just keep these power spikes online. And number 2, make sure fineokay doesn't get shut down. That's a big deal as well. A 4-0 shutdown really does add up.
Dharmic Pillars dropped, and Ronngyu, he's just swimming around. He's just hanging out in the boat. I don't know if they want to find this full-on engage. Adapting, and Sheento right around the corner. And you can see the grouping on this side of the map right before this Fury spawns. And my question to you, I mean, has it gone?
He wants to go.
Combo. He wants to go in. He is jumping in. He's got Ronngyu to follow up behind him. The blink in from Dzoni, though. And you got the support there from Ronngyu. The wave now coming through. And this fight could turn on its head. Spudio under pressure on the other side. Manages to get his way away from adapting. But low members on Hex Mambo. And Cozyx will fall down. PandaCat grabs the support. And that's now room on the Primal.
And that's the thing, Julio made the rotation as well. He tried to match that presence of fineokay. It just didn't matter. The Leviathans have too much gold, too much itemization in their favor, and they'll take that free Primal Fury, no problem. Just one pick, as far as I'm concerned. Could have been a couple more, but they played that one smart, and they said, hey, let Cozyx die. No one else from Hex Mambo did that conveyor belt effect where everyone tries to save each other. They said, hey, the elephant's done. We're going to retreat here. But the Leviathans, very calculated. They know how to just strip the life out of this map and get as much gold as possible. And I'm still keeping my eyes on fineokay and Sheento, man. Level 16 at 14 minutes, I mean 15 now. They are threats.
This gold lead, this experience lead is getting quickly out of control for Leviathans. 15 minutes in, you've got 7K on the board. You've got an experience lead in every single role, literally every single role across the board. And you've got those item spikes. You are just flat out doing... Rapio has an entire item down on Sheento, who has the Mirrodin in pocket here. I mean, if you're Hex Mambo, you have to choose your next engagement so carefully, whereas if you're Leviathans, you can just step up like this. You can just walk up to the Pyromancer, and nobody from Hex Mambo can step up, but you might leave PandaCat a little bit worse for wear. You burn both relics off the Ullr, but you get the Pyromancer.
Yeah, that was the only play that Mambo could go for. Ronngyu sending out the River of Sticks saying, hey, this tower will be ours. You might as well just retreat. And it goes down for free. Sure, PandaCat loses both relics, but with Dzoni in mid lane, doesn't seem like anything else will come for it. I don't hate that call, but some damage coming the way of Julio. Unfortunately, Final Judgment did not connect, which means Julio gets to live to see another day.
It's the ultimate burn from a couple members there, but yeah, that combo, you can see though, they're on the same page. Maybe a little bit unfortunate that knock-up comes through, but when the Leviathans are firing on all cylinders like this, it's so dangerous to try and step in. Charlie, what is the minute mark that Hex Mambo are looking for? Because this is, it seems like it's spiraling a little bit. And if I'm Mambo, I'm looking to get involved. Maybe it's here, but Johnny's level 13. He's running away from adapting, and he won't make it out alive. Now it's Spudio under pressure, rooted, and the damage is through, adapting with a double kill, and the Levi's on top.
And that's the thing. I mean, Johnny tries to force a fight. He's level 13. He couldn't step the PandaCat if he tried, and we just saw him attempt to. He gets absolutely destroyed damage-wise, and adapting was there. The peel was on the way. That's the only place Mambo can even attempt to find a kill, and PandaCat has 0 deaths in his column for a reason.
PandaCat owning this left-hand side as well as his entire team. I mean, Hex Mambo, if the Levi's were to step up for a Fire Giant right now, maybe in the next 3 minutes, are you stepping up to it at all if you're Mambo?
I think Mambo needs to play, if it's not EFG, we stay away. That's a game that you play a lot in ranked when you realize, hey, my team cannot hang at the moment. We don't have the damage. We sit here until Enhanced Fire Giant. And yeah, you might lose a bird, you might lose 2. But it's not going to be the end of the game, right? You just stem your bleeding and you find gold elsewhere. It's not going to be easy because the Leviathans have been forcing fights, and you called it, Frog. Fire Giant's looking real tasty for the Leviathans.
17 minutes, same time as game number 2, but this time, maybe more interested in the fight. If anybody from Hex Mambo steps up to this, you got to imagine it's going to start with Cozyx, but it starts with the Fire Giant. Down a little bit low, but just a bait thus far. They know Johnny, they've got the ward coverage, and it's fineokay in the front, pushing Cozyx back. He gets body blocked on his own Dharmic pillars, and the ultimate takes him down. Julio forced to ult away. The knockup, the CC is too much to handle, and a killing spree for PandaCat. The Leviathans cannot be stopped.
Sheento is on point. Final judgment. He's got a sniper scope on this Thoth, and he does not miss. Now, Leviathans 12-0 step into the Fire Giant. It's just Johnny who wants to go in for a miracle steal, but with the Typhoon, he's got a decent opportunity. Once he sees a level 19 Thoth, he decides to run away, and I think that's the correct call. It's just looking like the Leviathans could do no wrong here, Frog. The one issue they had in game number 1. It wasn't early game, it wasn't late game siege, it was can we kill Fire Giant? And they answered that question before 20 minutes in game number 3.
Sheento just dashed in. He dashed through a fire ring at a Susano.
That's not a Susano, that's a level 15. It's not the same.
It's not a okay, different character. My bad.
when Johnny gets another item, he can be Susano again. He's not right now.
He can be Susano again. It's going to be tough for Hex Mambo. We've seen them climb the mountain before. We have seen them in similar spots, down from behind. And the power maybe comes to this siege potential. Right. They've still got all 3 of these tier 2s available, all 3 Phoenixes available. The Lions take the gold fear. They're looking to push. What does this defense look like for Mambo?
Let's talk about the positives, right? Hex Mambo has some range clear. Rapio can stay pretty safe. And of course, Cozyx can just shut down a siege with Dharmic pillars. The issue, however, is Hex Mambo's a bit split at the moment. They're in mid, they're in left. I think you let these tier 2 towers go down. If it's not a Phoenix, I'm not wasting an ultimate on it, right? That should be the rule of thumb here. If it's not a Phoenix, we don't waste on ultimate. We shouldn't be close enough that we waste relics. It needs to be keep the base alive. But with that, fineokay has unlimited dive potential. He is still the tankiest on the map by far. And Sheento can just, again, send that out. That was close, but doesn't connect.
That might be the go button, though, for Hex Mambo as Julio hits 2 with the Afterlife in on the engages. fineokay makes this space, and Julio gets deleted. And now Hex Mambo has to run away just as quickly as they went in. They have to run from the Leviathans. Rapio is off the map. A double kill for PandaCat, and he won't be shut down quite yet.
No
Trying
way.
to turn it around. No way! fineokay helps him out, and the Leviathans take down 3, and they're pushing a bird.
Frog, it's 15-0. Hex Mambo hasn't been able to confirm a single kill, and now the bird is the target. Mid Phoenix drops down. The Leviathans can do no wrong. They'll get their Phoenix, and they'll head on back to base to spend up that gold. Look at that golden hand. Everyone can get an upgrade. That was disgusting. I mean, Sheento missing his ult is great, but I don't think that's the go button, right? That's not the all-in we can fight. That should have been, hey, we live to see another day, let's go back to base. But Hex Mambo, once again, tried to force that engagement. It just did not find anything.
Leviathans can do no wrong. This is the performance we were expecting from the #2 seed here on the world stage. And if you're Hex Mambo, this is where the mental game becomes so important.
Right.
This is where the mental fortitude to stay in it becomes so important, because maybe that wasn't the right go button, but the fact that they're still looking for engages at all, they're not just taking it lying down. This is a team that is still looking. The Leviathans have to continue to play this clean.
They certainly do, but they have made very little mistakes. PandaCat jumping in there looked like a mistake. He didn't die though, right? He lived to see another day. The double relics came in clutch, so even that was not able to be punished. Spudio, I think, is playing this perfectly. Stay away, get farm, hit level 20. That's what the carries of Mambo should be doing. The W key technique. Just because a missed Thoth ultimate, it does not mean the go button. Like I said, Phoenix should be your home, and Hex Mambo have finally understood that.
Fire Giant, only 30 seconds left on this push, but fineokay has been zoning for much longer than that.
Yep.
They've got the lead. They're ready to push this bird down. At least ask the question and see if they can pull something away from Hex Mambo. One stray ultimate from Sheento could delete somebody on the Chaos side. Ultimates come through. Spudio looking for it, but his health bar is just gone. The jump in from fineokay, and you force the ADC back. You force the solo laner back, and the entirety of Hex Mambo, they cannot defend.
And we see this time and time again against Thoth, man. The late Aegis, right? You Aegis after Final Judgment. Sometimes you have to trust that Sheento's gonna hit the flick and just pre-Aegis, right? It's a low-risk play where if you Aegis, you lose it, and you could die later on, but that Phoenix dropped because Spudio cannot stick around. fineokay almost chased that kill, and if you get one there, that fight might be over. You might be diving the Titan room at that point, but with Fire Giant falling off, and it's still very early in this game to have 2 Phoenixes down, you said it already, the Leviathans need to stay calculated. Even with a Lily like this, one shutdown could be the opener. But Hex Mambo, man, they need to pray for a misplay, because even if they grouped in the jungle and found one, a 5v1, doesn't mean the Fire Giant's going towards you. It doesn't mean you can get those birds up. It's still scary stuff.
I mean, I think if fineokay was caught in a 5v1, he might survive for like 15 seconds.
Yeah, it'd be rough.
He might just sit there in the middle of all 5 of them. And this is maybe why, I mean, I don't even think you can consider stepping out to this Fire Giant. It's not enhanced. We're still 6 full minutes away from that. The next Fire Giant might not even be enhanced, but Hex Mambo, they've got 2 birds down. They've got to figure out how they want to defend against this left bird now. It's still a regular Fire Giant's push through, but gotta hope Dzoni does not get caught out here. Has to be running away, but it's fineokay. He's been constantly in this front line.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing, Frog. The Leviathans don't want it to get to a next Fire Giant. They want to clean up this game right here. Oni Fury going down for free. They'll have plenty of minions pushed up. That mid bird spawns in, and of course, with the Titans coming through, how many times have we seen a team with a lead like the Leviathans have just end off of one misplayed Titan fight? You have a 6th man on your side with a big HP bar. Leviathans are going to try and whittle this down in mid quickly, and then play for left and play for mid. That being said, though, there's been some more farm. Finally, Spudio hits level 20. Finally, Rapio hits level 20. These are some power spikes that needed to happen, but as far as it's been, Hex Mambo hasn't been able to confirm a single kill.
Still don't have the upgraded starters, even for those level 20 members. Only the upgraded starters coming through from Cozyx here. But this is the push you are waiting for. This might be the Leviathans push that they hang their hat on. And the 5 members strong, the Order Titan pushing down, the ultimate being charged up. Sheento looking for one stray member to hit. They don't even know. They don't even need to step up to take down the bird. They know how easily they could find that damage. And the Order Titan, Trelly, it's pushing in, and the wave is coming through the Titan. They're not onto it yet. It's on to the Titan. That's the damage. It's falling down to about half HP, but now forced to disengage. The Typhoon comes through, but Dzoni makes it out alive. Look at the Titan health. Trelly, it's low. It's going down, and the Leviathans, they push themselves on to semifinals.
And that's what I'm talking about, Frog. You cannot sleep on the Titan damage. Sure, the Leviathans were a bit weak. Their Titan wasn't. Sure, they were missing a bit of damage, but their Titan was not. The Leviathans, they made the adaptations. They said, hey, we are confident in our game plan. We are going to run back a very similar draft to game number 1. They made the needed changes, and Ronngyu, 0-13 on this Charon. He was a part of everything.
Every single kill there, and not a single one being able to answer back there from Hex Mambo. They take game number 1, they fight back. They look good in this series, but in game number 3, Leviathans, they just turned it on. That's an SPL team. That's the number 2 seed for Worlds, man. And I think in that game 3, I mean, they warmed up. They showed up a slate. Every team here now has got to be on alert.
And that's what you got to think about, Frog. Adaptations, right? Best of 3s are, you know, small room for it. You lose game number 1, you got to make those adaptations quick, and the Leviathans did it. Semifinals, best of 5s, you have even more time to make those adaptations. So you got to take your hat off to them. I did not have too much confidence in the full run back of that competition, but hey, it was just the changeup. The Charon did so much. That ultimate, I said was a bit slow. Ronngyu was nailing it every single time. And of course, fineokay on the Nike. Did you see him get low at all?
No.
No.
No, I didn't see him drop below 75% since maybe the early portion of the game. That team picture looking pretty.
They're looking fresh.
They're
and
looking
confident.
fresh. They're looking fresh, confident, and certainly after that 2-1 set win, pushing themselves on to semifinals. You have to feel, I think, a little bit of additional boost there if you're the Leviathans.
Right.
Just because, like, yes, if you came out in 2-0, that'd feel great. You'd still move on. But to be able to fight back, to prove yourself on day 1, that's got to give a little extra boost of confidence.
I'd argue it's better, right? You make it out, you say, hey, we took a bit of a spill, we learned, and that's the big thing, and then you immediately made changes. It's not easy to take an L and then within like 5-10 minutes say, hey, we know what we did wrong. Right. Sure, it was 2 games in between, but I like number 1, they never lost confidence. They ran back those picks and said no problem. And of course, Sheento should not be having Thoth, man. That's just my opinion.
They were first picking it every single game. Maybe an on the lookout for the rest of the tournament. Got to give props to Hex Mambo. Great play from them, especially early on the set. Able to take a game that'll end their Worlds appearance here. For the Leviathans, though, have to look a little bit forward, right? They're now on to the semifinals. Like you mentioned, that's a best of 5 set. Left to think about how they are going to play against that. But that'll do it for me and Trelly on the cast. We'll throw it over to Kelly for an interview.
Hello. Joining me here, everyone. Make some noise for Leviathan Sheento. Sheento, that best of 3 was a journey, so we got to start from the beginning. That was one of the most dominant starts in game 3 or game 1 that I've ever seen, and then it kind of just crumbled from beneath you guys. What exactly happened?
I mean, we have a big lead at the beginning of the first game, and then we just threw. I don't remember what. Kenneth was like 3-0, and he got shut down by Johnny in the solo, and we kind of start throwing after that, and then it was all over.
Well, it looked for a moment that we might have seen a repeat from what we saw from last year, but game 2, you guys were able to turn it around. What do you think the big shift was?
We used shift for bans. We just ban Hachi and Raijin, and the guys were like clueless while they're like playing the game, and like that's it.
Well, it wasn't it, because game 3 was absolutely insane. You denied a single kill from Hex Mambo. What were you guys on?
I mean, we expected to fucking stomp the shit out of this guy. So the first game was, it kind of has to be the same of the third game, but we kind of threw it, like I say, but like, yeah, I'm just happy.
Sheento, I think you got a lot of fans here. Is there anything you want to say to them before I let you go?
Thank you everyone for supporting. Y vamos arriba, LATAM!
Thank you so much, Sheento, and let's head back to the desk.
Lots of nuggets in that interview there, Miff. I know you're a big fan of Sheento and a lot of what he had to say there post-game. What's your takeaway from the Sheento post-game interview?
He shook their hands and gave them hugs and then went up and said all that while slamming the spearmint. I love that guy.
You knew it was over when he walked on stage with just a mouthful of gum, right? Because that's all it is for Sheento. Inbound and hi-rez are also with us here on the desk. Game 1 and Game 3 Inbound, very similar. Game 3 ends up a lot better for the Leviathans.
Yeah, I think they finally snowballed the game properly how they were supposed to, and I think it made a lot more sense how they took those fights. It was a lot more calculated, it seemed, and they were a lot more grouped together. So it just made a lot more sense how they were playing.
Let's see exactly how the Leviathans got there in your Steel Series moments of glory from game number 3. Doesn't count as a full break. Mifflin was going to break me at some point this weekend, but doesn't count as a full break. hi-rez Walk me through what you're seeing here from the Leviathans in game 3.
Just ridiculous pressure across the map, and this time they execute throughout. They went after a 6-0 lead in game 1. This time they were not stopping any time. And as I said during the start, Charon, what a great god. Performed so well. Charon, Ullr, maybe my dream duel lane. I just love those gods, love those picks. They go crazy. What a performance by the Levi's. It also takes a lot to just go this hard and play this aggressive.
Yeah.
With it all on the line, you know? Their tournament life is on the line, and they are just holding W. It's really, really impressive mental by the Levi's.
Hazer, I've watched enough of your stream to know what you want to say, and I'm just going to say it. They dog walked them. They got dog walked. That was ridiculous.
I was so nervous what you were about to say.
Oh, yeah.
It was a coin flip. What
Oh,
it was really
Hazer, do the thing. Is Charon good?
I don't think I want to do that.
There's a lot of outside forces at play here that I don't fully understand. What I do understand, though, is we finally get a 3-game set. Leviathans, who are favorited to win this set anyway, end up coming out on top, but they got to do it in 2 straight in game 2 and game 3. Blanking Hex Mambo. 0 deaths across the board for the Leviathans. Ending on a game like that inbound, how important is that for the Leviathans moving forward? That being the game 3 that you go out with today.
I mean, the entire set was nearly the perfect set for the Levi's. Dropping game 1 after a phenomenal start sucks. The stop back, the jump back into game 2, being able to evolve your play enough, well enough to win game 2, and then to go into game 3 and just absolutely dominate, snowball the game perfectly. Everything about that set was probably perfect for the Levi's to make this run into semis and then into finals.
Styx Ferryman, Jade Dragons, that matchup already set tomorrow. Both those 2 teams looking very good, I might add. Leviathans stamped their ticket here in game 3. And then there were 2 left to play today, and it's the Oni Warriors and the Camelot Kings. Hazer, there's history between these 2 squads. Maybe a player and an entire team on the other side. History would tell us that the Oni Warriors look very good coming into this matchup. Who knows what the Kings are going to look like? Is this as simple as it's being made out to be, or do you think this could also be a close set?
It's a grudge match.
Yeah.
You know Hindu likes to make the scripts interesting, you know, but I don't think even he could come up with a Camelot Kings win here. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. But I think that the Oni Warriors, their playstyle plays so well into Kings, and they've been just so much better this year so far. Kings are coming in slightly warmer, but we've just seen 3 teams that came in slightly warmer be eliminated in the quarterfinals we've seen so far, so that doesn't seem to be too significant.
I got a couple world champions next to me, though. You 2 both.
He's got 2 of them.
2 time, 1 time.
Yeah, you got a couple lightning bolts. That's right. Wow, and you haven't held that over him at all.
That was literally the first time I've ever said it.
I'm really impressed by you.
It's not true. He says it to me every time we pass in a hallway.
That's true. You 2 work together. A switch has to flip, though, inbound. When you get here, you're live on stage. Your recent matches, if you're the Kings, maybe haven't been going the best. Something changes, though, when you get here and the crowd's behind you and you're defending your world's title.
I mean, it's 100% that. If you have the crowd behind you, there's like a 6th person on your team that can help elevate your gameplay. And if they do harness the crowd, the noise and everything, and they either use that against the Warriors, they use it for themselves, I mean, that's like a great way to just start it off. Yes, as Hazer so politely said, they're not expected to do much here. The Warriors are the favorite. The Kings are here. You're defending world champions, but they have not looked like it yet. But who says they can't start today?
Myth, did you have the crowd behind you?
No.
No,
No,
never
his
once.
team wasn't behind him.
No. I'll say this.
Okay.
Just to play devil's advocate here, I think if we do have the same version of the Camelot Kings that just qualified recently, that we just saw at the most recent event, blowout. It's not going to look close. But if they've spent their time practicing and preparing and aiming directly at the Oni Warriors, and I think they should have, don't think about anyone else beyond this. You have to get through the first step. There have been rumblings backstage from the other pros that maybe this version of the Camelot Kings has something to show us.
Remember, these teams, they wake up early today, they walk out on stage, they got the crowd behind them. They've been watching SMITE. How many hours is this now? Goodness.
Creep it up on 12.
We're getting there. And finally, it's your turn to step out on stage. Not right now, in just a moment. When we come back, our 4th and final quarterfinal of the day, it's the Oni Warriors against the Camelot Kings.